This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a tense situation right now here at Pridelands as we watch this lioness staring down a group of wildebeest and zebra. Will she make a go at trying to hunt these? I just don't know. It's very exciting. We've just come out on drive and we found this lioness in the same place she was this morning. Very exciting. So we're going to wait here and hope that she tries to get a bit closer to them. They're out in the middle of the clearing, so it's not easy. But there's a whole herd of zebra who are a little bit preoccupied with fighting with each other, as well as a group of wildebeest. This is fantastic. Everybody, welcome to your safari, live from the African bush. Very, very still. We're all just waiting, sort of with bated breath, as this lioness is frozen. There's one wildebeest watching her, has spotted her, but it is not sure what she is yet, so she has to stand very still until the wildebeest loses interest. See, she's inching forward. The wildebeest has turned its back. She's going to inch ever forward. The wind is perfect for her. It's blowing directly from the wildebeest and the zebra to where she is, so they will not smell her coming. We're going to keep at a bit of a distance. We don't want to interfere with this, considering we've seen her for the last few days without food. And so it'll be nice to see that she hunts successfully, if possible. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert. And as I said, you're joining us here at Pridelands Eco Trainings Conservancy, where we've got a really, really cool thing happening. I mean, we've seen her chasing things on this plains before, but never with such intensity. It's like she really wants this to be successful. I can see the wildebeest stepping up. She's just there above this little mound of earth on the left there. You can just see her watching, and the wildebeest knows there's something up. It's not sure. It's seen some movement, but it doesn't know exactly what's happening. Let's see if she can contain herself for a little bit longer for these wildebeest to lose interest. Chrissy, I agree. It's a great start to any day is when you've got wild animals, and an even better start when those animals are looking with this intensity to hunt or to chase. And we know this lioness, if it's Lagatha, she's been very good at looking after herself, although the distance is great. There's about 100 meters between her and the two groups of antelope, and so I don't think that she'll be able to make that hunt successfully from this distance. But if she is able to contain her excitement and hold out until these animals start to feed and move around again, she could get lucky. Every time that one wildebeest that's staring in her direction, every time it puts its head down and starts feeding, oh, that's an alarm call. Half-hearted, is not sure what it's seen. The lioness just has to stay still. They don't have a great long-term memory, wildebeest, so in a few minutes, if it doesn't move, it might start feeding and forget about the lioness. You can see there's some youngsters there, which is almost certainly what this lioness will be after. The zebras are probably a bit too strong for a single lioness. She could certainly catch them, but it would be very, very dangerous for her. Better if she tried a wildebeest or one of their calves. She is standing dead still, so the zebras have no idea that she's there. And they're usually the most alert of all the antelopes, or of all the herbivores, I should say. It's not an antelope. It's one of the horse-like animals. But you see that one wildebeest starting to look around now. It's losing interest. The lioness stayed very, very still for long enough that... maybe not. Maybe not. I just need these animals to go closer to one of the drainage lines there. You see where the vegetation is behind them? If they can move there, where she can take the thickets and get a bit closer to them, then she's got a good chance. But they've done well. The wind is blowing from those thickets to these wildebeest, and so they'll be able to smell her. Oh, yeah, she's going. Ah, she's trying, but she couldn't contain herself. She's jogging. Go for it. Oh, she's fast. She's fast, but the wildebeest are faster. Wow. Incredible. See, there's other vehicles here as well, but wow, that was amazing. She really tried to go for them. I don't think she's managed, or she certainly hasn't managed, but she's still watching. What I'm going to try and do is reposition ourselves so we can get a bit closer. How incredible was that? Actually, I'm not going to move just yet. Just want to see what she does. All the animals are running. The wildebeest they've regrouped. I don't know if you'll be able to turn that way, Gert. Oh, it'll be a bit tricky. Let me just move the car a little bit. Are you going to be fine there? Okay. I'm just going to try and see if we can show you where she is right now. There she is. So you can see she's just walking towards the wildebeest, who've all created a sort of united front there with the zebras. Oh, there they run off. So she's young and relatively inexperienced, this lion. She's been able to look after herself for the last year on her own. As you can see, she hasn't quite got the patience of an older, more experienced lioness. And right now she's just walking straight towards them, sort of hoping to start a panic, I think, in the hopes that maybe she causes these wildebeest to make a mistake, to stumble. Maybe one of the youngsters just turns the wrong way. If we just give her the edge she needs. Because she is fast, not quite as fast as a wildebeest in full sprint. But she's going to the edge of where we can pan now. We're going to have to reposition. We'll do our best. I don't know how well we're going to be able to hold out with our signal the way it is. Not sure what we can do here. Okay, I'm just going to come around the long way. I don't want to get in front of her and disturb her hunting. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, whilst we try and reposition ourselves, we'll let you check what the weather is like at the other live locations.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. Mike, I really do wish you and that lioness well in your endeavors this afternoon. We just left camp and we were kind of heading towards a watering hole, and we've come across quite a large herd of elephants. Some of them have gone into the thicker bush. It looks like maybe one of the older ones at the back here, coming through, just feeding now on a cluster leaf there, silver cluster leaf, coming nicely into the open. Oh, is it feeding on it? More like just doing a bit of gardening, coming towards us here. Looks like one of the younger bulls. Oh, even showing us a bit of a... Interesting to see if it actually eats that cluster leaf. It's not something that they do too often. But good afternoon, I'm Daniel Fisher, and on camera this afternoon we've got OD. And what I'm thinking of doing is I'm probably going to head back towards that lioness's den at some point this afternoon, try and see what else we can find some dry areas. But for the meantime, I'm going to stick with this elephant and this herd of elephants and this young bull coming towards us just to inquire about us chewing on that cluster leaf, trying to make himself look quite big. Oopsie. You can see there's some dry mud right in his face. You see that trunk right up there. The wind is blowing from our left to the right, straight towards this elephant. And that's why that trunk will go up like that, getting a funny smell, picking up on us. I mean, I don't think he's so interested in feeding and moving around. Trying to intimidate us a little bit, showing us how big he is. And you'll see he's kind of getting to the age where he is at the back of the herd. Let's try and reposition here quickly. I just have to do a little bit of a forward turn quickly. It won't be too difficult to get back into view. Oh, he's full of energy this afternoon and quite inquisitive. I'm not too worried. He's not so serious. And you see the rest of the herd at the back over there as well. Oh, he's just laid down. He seems to be playing games with us here. I don't know what he's expecting from us. Lying right down, might even do a little roll around, trying to hide in the grass. I mean, we've spoken so much in the past few days about the length of the grass and how, jeez, how's this behavior? It's quite interesting. I haven't seen that too often. I mean, he's been super interested with us. He's left the rest of the herd to come in and investigate. Turning around, rolling around, even try to hide himself in the grass, but I'm afraid you're just a little bit too big to conceal yourself in the reasonably short grass. In fact, I reckon there are some places around the reserve at the moment where he would have concealed himself, but I'm afraid this is not the right place. Maybe in the water. Sometimes young bulls like this love a swim, particularly when it's very hot. I mean, today isn't unbelievably warm, but you'll often see them completely submerging themselves, not in intention to hide themselves from us or anyone for that matter, but just simply for fun. I wonder if that wasn't what he was doing here. He's just taking a little bit of satisfaction and enjoyment with this funny vehicle that was around. I mean, he's certainly familiar with vehicles. The rest of the herd that he's kind of following, so they had not a single worry about us. They just carried on doing what they were doing. And you'll see, I mean, he is right in the periphery. He's on his own as well. I wonder if he's the only young bull around about this age, or maybe he's actually been chased away from another herd at some point or quite recently and kind of joining up with this one. He's nowhere near big enough or old enough to be mating just yet. And if he is a part of this herd kind of in the process of being chased away, he's kind of in his teens. Let me just reverse a little bit, see if I can reposition one more time, carry on watching him. So in his teens, maybe around 14 or 15 years old, is a good time for him to kind of leave the herd. And you'll see once his hormones and things start to develop, particularly the testosterone, he will then start to become quite bullish and push it and put a bit of pressure on the rest of the herd, and the mothers and the cows will actually end up pushing him away. So let's see if we can't get another view. If not, I might keep going on our quest this afternoon. In the meantime, I'm going to send you to Steve to give his greeting and see what he's looking at.
Well, thanks, Dan. We've got raindrops falling on Maseb in the back. Good afternoon, everybody. It is raining again. It has been raining and raining and raining. It seems like we are definitely in the rainy season. If you weren't sure, it is confirmed. It is definitely the wet season. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Sebastian on camera. And we are trying to stay dry and trying to find areas where we can find some animals that aren't inundated with rain and moisture. And so this afternoon, we've managed to come up towards our little rubbing post dam on Buvusuk to see if we can maybe find our lesser moorhens again. But I think they are hiding. Although you'd think they might like the rain. They seem to be quite well hidden. Almost as well hidden as that Egyptian goose who thought we couldn't see it. We can see you there. We can see you. I've seen it here a couple of times on its own. Don't know why it doesn't have a friend or a partner. Geese, although the Egyptian goose is not a goose. Funny enough, geese are known to pair for life, everybody, and one of the first sort of books I really read, you know, at school you're supposed to read books because you're supposed to read books, and then I didn't really like reading. It don't like to be forced to do anything. And I was given a book by a girl when I was in Ireland. And you know what it's like when someone you might be a little bit interested in gives you a book and you think, I better finish this in case they ask me questions. And it was an interesting book, and one of the sections in it was actually a bit of a scientific book, funny enough. Who ever thought I would have gotten into this sort of field? Back in those days, I had no idea. And one of the things they said was that geese are more likely to pick a same-sex partner after losing their mate than to find a new partner for life. So it's quite interesting. So if a goose loses the partner, it's most likely going to find another of the same sex to hang out with, rather than breeding or meeting once again. Tammy, they are everywhere. Egyptian geese are everywhere in South Africa. South Africa has got the highest number of dams in the whole of Africa. And Egyptian goose love farmlands and they love water. And so where there's water, generally in South Africa, we've got lots of dams which have been built for the agricultural sector, and lots of fields, corn fields and crops and the like. And Egyptian geese love to walk through those fields and graze and then go to the watering holes where they spend some time as well. So the habitat has been facilitated for them to an enormous degree. And well, we're going to send you from this very wet and raindroppy watering hole to a much larger one a little bit further south from us.
Good luck, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren, and on camera today I have Lauren. Yes, getting better at this. We are, of course, on the dam cam, admiring a hammerkop, the hammerheads in the bird variety, although, of course, not nearly as scary or as many teeth. Now, this bird in particular is fabulous. I love the hammerkop, named after that really bizarre shaped head, as I'm sure anyone could imagine. And right now it's resting, it's roosting, shall we say, at the very edges of the dam. And the reason you'll find them around the dams is, of course, they're water birds, just like the heron we had this morning that was hunting the fish. They will also sort of behave in similar ways. They're not as tall, their legs are not as long, so they'll stay on the shoreline and in the very shallows of the water. But what they're looking for is frogs, tadpoles, small fish. It's not as powerful as the heron to catch bigger fish, and any sort of delicious aquatic insects that may be nearby. So once again, we're going to scan the dam cam and see if anything approaches. You never know what may come, but our tricky point is how thick it is. Now in winter, if some of you are new to watching us, you'll be able to see for miles, but not anymore. Sorry, Gwen, can you ask that question one more time? Daniel, I just already mentioned that great minds think alike, and yes, they do. So they stay out of the shower, they don't have legs as long as the herons do, but they're sort of waders. So what you'll find is that they will wade through the water and they'll be able to slowly, without disturbing that water column, that's the last thing they want to do. Although they're present, they want to remain invisible to the fish's perception. They don't want the fish to understand that there's a predator standing in wait. They'll stand remarkably still, almost like a statue, for a very, very long time until they're able to see exactly what they want and dart in and get it with their beak. They're absolutely incredible for their size. The grey heron is a lot bigger and a lot heavier. The grey heron can come in at about 1.5 kilograms, which is quite heavy. And the hammerkop only comes in at about 500 grams. There's a remarkable difference there, but in terms of their hunting strategies, yes, it's very, very similar. I really love these birds. They create incredible nests as well. I remember in the Masai Mara, they have hammerkop bridge because the entire bridge has just been taken over by this huge hammerkop nest. Okay, so I'm going to see what I can find on the dam cam for you all, and for now, let's go back across to Pretlands.
So we've come to this little, the edge of the western edge of Impala Plains, where she actually followed. She's actually gone past us now, and we think she's heading up towards the boundary. But there's an elephant in the thickets there that was chasing her, and she obviously missed those zebras. She tried some impalas as well, but she didn't have luck. So I think she's leaving the area now in order to just let the animals here relax and maybe come back again a bit later. This seems to be one of her favorite hunting areas. She's been seen here a lot over the last few weeks. That was really exciting though, and I think we're going to leave her as well to give her some space to relax and lie down somewhere. It's really close to our northern boundary anyway, so the chances are she's going to just cross over our northern boundary and lie somewhere where we can't see her anyway, and then maybe come back a bit later. So that's what we'll do. But that was super exciting. That was really great. We got to see that whole thing from start to finish, where she was stalking, staying very still, dead still. I mean, sometimes animal can for 15-20 minutes without moving at all. So cool. But while we decide what to do next, we'll send you over to Tswalu with a lovely view.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tswalu. My name is Deirdre, and on camera with me this afternoon is Morgan. And the weather forecast said 4% chance of rain or 4% precipitation, but looking down there in the south, some of the reserve is definitely getting some rain already. There's been some large lightning strikes already in that area, but the northern half of the reserve, bright blue sunshine, so we're definitely going to stick north this afternoon. But spectacular views down the Karannaberg this afternoon. We don't really have too much of a plan. There we go. I don't know if you got that. Beautiful. There is some lightning definitely there in the south. So I hope the animals manage to find some shelter. Oh, and there's that rumble afterwards, so not too far away from us. But we're going to carry on and head to one of our watering holes and see if we can see what's come to there. Penelope's comment, what a beautiful view. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, if you just, we've almost got a, well, if I stand at the top of the dune, about a 360-degree view all around. We practically are in the middle of Tswalu at this stage. So all of those mountains that are in the rain are also all within the Tswalu's boundaries. Oh, really is a big, a big rumble there. So don't forget to send us your questions at #WildEarth and put at FC in front of your questions. And we're going to head on to the dam, and we'll see you later.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into the spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back, everybody, and so just a little update from that den site that we were at this morning. There's someone who's there at the moment, and he said that we normally rank sightings or visuals at least on a scale of 1 to 5, or 0 to 5, let's say, with 0 being no visual and 5 out of 5 being the best visual. He said he's there and he's got like a half out of 5 visual at the moment, so I'm not going towards there right now. I'm hoping as the afternoon gets a little bit later and it gets a bit cooler. We saw first thing in the morning, those little cubs were incredibly playful and incredibly active. So I'm hoping that if I go back there a little bit later, there might be a good chance of them starting to move around, play around. Mom is still there. I'm sure it's her tail that they're currently looking at. So there's a good chance of them starting to move around in the cooler weather. So for now, I'm kind of heading into the western part of the reserve. As you can see, it is quite wet, and lots of the roads, in fact, are actually... That's quite a deep hole, so I'm actually going to drive around it. We normally drive through the puddles just to prevent the roads from eroding further. But that puddle I know is incredibly deep. You might even get stuck right in it. So heading into the western part of the reserve, a part I haven't been to for a long time, and a part where the roads are quite a lot more sandy, so they're not as sticky and soft. Seeing what we can find. Completely different, bit of a risk this afternoon. Hopefully we find something very interesting. Often risks can have high rewards, so let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Keeping a good lookout for any sort of interesting tracks in the softer sand after the rain. You can kind of see the road has been kind of disturbed by quite a lot of impalas. There's some giraffe that were walking on the left-hand side at some point. So I'm going to keep going, keeping a lookout for any unique tracks, maybe some cat tracks or some bigger herbivores. But while I keep going towards the western part of the reserve, I'm going to send you over to Lauren and see what she's got there.
Now, there are hippos there, I promise. They've just submerged for now, which is, of course, exactly what they do on both hot and cold days. Now, when it's hot, naturally, the water will cool you down. But sometimes on very, very cold days, especially when it's windy up top, the water can actually insulate you. If you think of maybe if any of you have dived or snorkeled in really bad weather or bad storms, I know I have, the water can actually keep you a lot warmer than being on the surface, exposed and wet, because, well, that's going to chill you down quite substantially. There we go, it's popping up. And although hippos are great big grey mammals, I guess, a lot of people would think they would be closely related to rhinos or elephants possibly, and they're absolutely not. Their closest relatives are the cetaceans. Now, what does cetacean mean? It's basically a marine mammal order, Cetacea, and it includes whales, dolphins, and porpoises. So that's what cetaceans mean. And of course, any organism in the order Cetacea are mammals. And they're grouped together, and it was by the ancient Greeks, I think. They recognized that cetaceans are not fish. Dolphins, porpoises, and whales are not fish. They breathe air. They give birth to live young. They produce milk, believe it or not, and they have hair. Now, many people think dolphins and whales do not have hair. But this is not entirely correct, because all mammals have hair at some point in their life, and dolphins are absolutely no exception. Now, it may not be all the way through their life, but they will have hair at some points, and some dolphins actually have a few whiskers, which is basically hair, sensory hair, around their snout whilst in the womb of their mother. But normally when they're born, they do lose them. They no longer need whiskers in an aquatic environment. Evolution is not perfect. And I'm sure it's the Amazon River dolphin, which is a really, really unique dolphin. If you've never seen it before, I suggest Googling it. It's beautiful, but unique. They don't lose their hair, so they actually keep their hair all the way into adulthood. And they're sensory hairs, just like whiskers on our leopards or our lions. And they're used to help them locate prey because they're in the river. They're not oceanic. Generally, the oceanic waters are a lot clearer. The visibility is much better than in a river system. And river systems, it's murky, and they probably can't see very far. And therefore, their eyesight only has limited use. So that's why they're going to have sensory hairs, as well as echolocation, I might add. That's how they find their prey, rather than looking for their prey or trying to smell in a water medium. And on a humpback whale, on the head, there's actually some hair follicles as well, and that's exactly what the bumps are. If you look at a humpbacked whale, there's lots and lots of bumps. It's actually hair follicles. Fascinating. So I'm going to sit here and enjoy my time with the hippos, and now we're going to send you across to another location.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, as I was going, there was those tracks that we were talking about of impalas in the road. There was some wildebeest and some zebra tracks in the road. And we've come to the kind of the crest of this little road that we've going driving along, and a beautiful large herd of impala on our left-hand side. All of them just kind of relaxing. You'll see quite a few of them are actually lying down in the grass, and it's quite pretty. There are lots of these little yellow flowers, or the leaves of these flowers, they look like flannel weeds, in fact. And look at that little one just almost hiding itself. And you'll see what they're doing there is actually ruminating. These impalas are ruminants. They've got 4 stomachs. They kind of pass the food between the stomachs. And they'll just take advantage of this cooler weather in a nice open area, nice and safe, to just take it easy. So the impalas are here on the left-hand side, a beautiful area. Look at all the large marulas, large view. Let me just duck down so you all go past me. Then there's some wildebeest on the right, and there's in fact some zebras as well, joining together. And you see all there's still those calves, those wildebeest calves are looking very cute, actually. The color's still so different. I was expecting them to be a little bit bigger. The impalas have grown so much in the past few months. The wildebeest are still looking quite small and quite young. And it's not strange to see these 3 species together. I mean, the impalas are only about 50 meters away or so, and the wildebeest and the zebras are together, and the impalas are too. And it's not strange to see them together. They're not in direct competition with one another. The impalas, in fact, are what we call mixed feeders. They'll feed on both grass and trees if they need to, and small bushes and shrubs. This time of the year they'll mostly be feeding on the grass and maybe some fresh shoots and things like that. But the wildebeest are quite picky feeders, in fact, and what they'll do, they like to eat some of the shorter grasses, where the zebra aren't too fussy, but they'll often eat the top parts of the grass, shortening it to a level that the wildebeest can feed on. So that's something that they hang around together. They're not in direct competition for food. And another huge benefit for them hanging around together is obviously the safety in numbers. And having all these different species, different heights, different senses that are stronger and better than one another. And you'll see, while there's a few that have got their heads down feeding, there'll be a whole lot whether it be the impala or the zebra or the wildebeest, there'll definitely be a few that have their heads up looking, their ears pointing and listening, and their noses up trying to catch the whiff of the wind, and maybe if there's a predator that's coming close. And if one of these animals, I mean, there's probably 50 or 60 impalas, see, even like a reaction like that, it's kind of that mob mentality and that herd mentality, that one animal responds, everybody's going to do exactly the same. If one animal reacts to there being danger around and sounds the alarm, the rest of them will react accordingly. Whether it be try and actually get an actual visual of the animal, the predator, and sound the alarm even louder. And can you imagine 50 impalas, 10 wildebeest, and a whole lot of zebras shouting at a predator? Josh, 6 years old, watching the show. Welcome, and I hope you're having a good time. Why are the calves born a different color? It has a lot to do with camouflage and hiding them. So when the calves are born, they will try and hide them in the grass. And I mean, at the moment, the grass has actually grown an incredible amount since they were born around December time, the beginning of December. And that'll help them blend into the surroundings and keep them differentiated from the mothers and actually well hidden in the grass. So that's the biggest reason for them being so different in color. And you'll see they will get to that darker black almost color as they get older and get a lot bigger. They'll kind of grow into that color, which is quite interesting. So I was talking about the alarm calls and all these animals and how they react and respond to one another. And if they do see a predator, they will sound the alarm. And the biggest thing about sounding the alarm is to obviously warn everyone else around them. But the majority, I mean, the impalas will be worried about leopards and lions, but these bigger herbivores like the wildebeest and the zebras will mostly be worried about lions. I mean, that'll be their biggest threat. Those calves, maybe a leopard, if it's feeling very brave and sees the right opportunity, might take a calf. Maybe some wild dogs will come through. Interesting, they might not alarm at wild dogs, but I'll get back to that just now. So the reason that they alarm call is actually to bring the attention of everyone towards these predators. Now, lions and leopards rely so much on camouflage to hunt. So once their cover is blown and that they realize that these animals have seen them, it's kind of the animals saying, hey, I see you there, your cover's blown, there's actually no point in coming for me anymore. So you might as well leave now. And you'll often see once the alarm is sounded, the alarm call is sounded, that the predators will actually get up and move away, because the animals have now got the element of surprise is blown and the animals can see them. And that, I mean, these animals are incredibly quick. So for that animal to now cover the distance while they're watching it might be an incredible waste of energy. I mean, both lions and leopards, they are incredibly good hunters, but they've got quite low success rates when it comes to taking on a hunt and executing it successfully. And that's even when they've got the element of surprise. So once they shout, once these animals alarm call at them, they'll often leave. You'll also see, like we listen to these alarm calls, it brings our attention towards there maybe being a threat or a predator in the area. Hyenas and other predators as well. They'll be lying somewhere around in the long grass listening for these alarm calls, and a hyena will come running in if they hear the alarm calls, because it's often maybe an impala alarming at a leopard that's already caught another impala, and that might be an opportunity for the hyena to steal some food. So as I was mentioning earlier, they might not be alarm calling at wild dogs. I mean, wild dogs will preferably like to go for the impalas. They're slightly smaller and the risk of injury is much less. But you'll very seldom actually hear impalas alarm calling at wild dogs. Now, as I was saying, the lions and the leopards rely so much on camouflage to hunt. Wild dogs are actually, they're the opposite. They don't really rely on camouflage so much. They rely more on their stamina and their athleticism to catch prey. So when they come through, they may try and stalk and get as close as they can. I mean, obviously, every advantage you're going to try and take. But the wild dogs will run into a herd of impala and try and cause confusion and scatter them. And now they're quite small, slender, sleek animals that are built for long distance chases. So when they run into a herd of impala, there very rarely be alarm calls, because they're not trying to blow the cover of the wild. not trying to blow the cover of the wild dogs. They're just trying to go in there and scatter them, and then they'll chase them down. So a way that impalas particularly will try and distract a wild dog, will try and prevent them from attacking them, they'll do something what we call stotting. So I don't see any here at the moment, but you see the little ones that are in the grass, particularly if they've got a little bit of excess energy early in the mornings or in the afternoons, they'll be running around kicking their back legs up. And when they're kicking their back legs up, it's that motion called stotting, as we call it. And what they're doing there, instead of saying to the predator, I'm alarm calling at you, I'm telling everyone where you are, they're showing their athleticism and just how athletic they are. It's trying to say, look at me, look how I can jump, look how I can run, look how athletic and fit I am. Don't come for me. And I mean, that is a fair way to go. I mean, it's a great idea, because if there is an impala that's unable to stot as well as another one or run as quickly, it's a much easier prey target for these wild dogs. So they'll then go and eliminate the weakest member in the group when they see that it's maybe not stotting quite as well or running away as quickly as the rest of them. Have a look at that male as well. I mean, he's looking incredibly proud. There are a few younger males around, but he doesn't really have too much to be proud about. I mean, there are lots of females around him, but this isn't the rutting or breeding season for the impala, so he's got no real benefit of having a whole lot of ladies around him. It actually might be a bit of a risk to him, in fact. With all these impala lambs, and they are getting quite big and wise, they've no doubt seen a few things in the past few months and gained a lot of experience. But you'll see when the impala lambs are actually born for the first time, that the males will kind of try and distance themselves from the females and the lambs, simply because almost every single predator out here in the lambing season is going for impala lambs. The ease of it is unbelievable. I mean, the impalas are just born, and there are so many, and it's one of the survival strategies of these impala, is that they give birth to all their lambs at the same time in the hope that some will survive. It's also this group mentality. I mean, we're talking about predators maybe coming in and disturbing this kind of peace. Living in a group, in a herd, with the impalas, the zebra, the wildebeest, if somebody doesn't manage to sound the alarm in time and a leopard does come and catch one, so I'll get back to what I was saying. Thandi Bear, what is the difference between stotting and pronking? They are very much the same thing, just for different animals. So stotting is used, as far as I'm aware, by impalas, and pronking is used mostly by springbok and maybe some Thompson's gazelle in East Africa. But it's the idea is the same and the effect is exactly the same. Stotting and pronking, just two different words for two different animals doing a very similar action. But a very good question. Let me just try and think exactly where I was again. Oh, this group mentality about if one animal actually does get caught, that's also a benefit of being in a group. If you're in a great large group, if somebody does get caught, the chances of it being you is much lower, which doesn't sound ideal, but it's a great survival technique. It's also that technique about the impalas giving birth to all their lambs at a very similar time. There's a great chance of at least a few lambs surviving rather than giving birth throughout the year and them getting picked off one by one. And I was saying also the males kind of separate themselves when the lambs are born, because all the attention is on these females and the lambs. And I mean everything from snakes to birds, leopards, lions, cheetah, wild dogs. I mean, a pack of wild dogs will go through an impala herd and they can eat 9, 10 impala lambs in a morning, you know. It's small, easy food, and particularly if they're hyenas following. Hyenas often follow wild dogs incredibly closely. If they come through and they kill a lamb, the wild dogs will actually even just leave that lamb to distract the hyenas and catch another one. That's almost how easy it is when these lambs are being born. And I mean, you can see there's a few of these newer lambs, a couple of months old now, maybe 3 or 4 months old, hiding in the grass. Not really hiding, just kind of resting. Those ears above there, they're quite cute actually. You'll see, I wonder if they're... No, that's not a young male. You'll kind of see this is the time in their lives at around 3-4 months old when the young males will start to develop these tiny little horns, and they're quite cute. It's like a teenage boy when he gets his first chin hair. It's quite an exciting time, I must say. Cokie Franklin's calling in the background. Don't know if you can hear them. quite a special little francolin we don't see all too often. But yeah, I mean, even it's calm and serene here at the moment, but they're having a look around and they're still very alert. So Jacqueline, I think it is, how old can impalas get? I mean, it depends on the predators in the area, but they can live up to around 10 years or so. And you'll see if they get sick along the way, they'll very likely be picked off by a predator. And even once they get above 10 years old, they then start to lose condition and weaken themselves, and they'll be picked off quite quickly and quite easily by the predators. I mean, that's a way. I mean, an impala, to me, and this is just an opinion, is one of the best survival experts out here. I mean, between them and hyenas, there's a reason you see so many impalas around. Their adaptations to surviving are incredible. I mean, we were talking about what they feed on. I mean, the wildebeest and the zebras are predominantly browsers, but these are what we call mixed feeders. So their diet is quite varied compared to the rest of the herbivores. And that breeding strategy of giving birth to all the lambs at the same time is obviously incredibly successful. It's one of the reasons you see so many impalas around here. And yes, they do get eaten. There's the majority prey species out here, but that's simply because they do so well and because there are so many of them. Incredibly alert as well, so very good to have around you when you're trying to survive. In terms of the wildebeest and the zebra, they're not quite as many of them, but having the extra eyes and ears goes a long way. You see how they all kind of move together, a few of them moving, a few of them looking up. Oh, little push of the horns there. That young male, about almost a year and a half now. You'll see when those horns kind of get to almost touching each other, that'll give us a good estimate of his age, and that'll be around 2 years old when they start to almost touch each other. Yeah, it looks like they're kind of moving into an area. I wonder if they're not going to start feeding. It is starting to cool down. Maybe start moving into an more open area as the evening starts to set in, where they'll spend the evening sleeping, give themselves the best advantage of seeing danger from a distance. But I'm going to keep going west, see what else we can find. What a lovely stop with these animals, wildebeest, zebras and impalas. Let's see what else we can find this afternoon.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet, and all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed. Is it just pretended to be dead? Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I? was like, that is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
So we left the area of that lioness and decided to take a drive to Leopard Dam to see what it looks like, and we've come to a bit of a roadblock. This road that we normally can drive is completely underwater, and that's not a little bit underwater, that's probably a good 30 or 40 centimeters underwater. And in fact, you can hear the power of that water flowing across here. That is all water that has just flowed over at Leopard Dam. So Leopard Dam is now full. This is overflow water making its way down the drainage line towards the bottom end of that clearing where we just watched that lioness. And this all just kept... Oh, there's a woodland kingfisher just dived in the water there in the background. So just a bit more to the left there, Gert. Yeah, there you go. So this water here just came up in the last 15-20 minutes, because when we first crossed to get to the lioness, there was no water at all. And now there's this massive amount flowing, so the dam has just reached full capacity. And that's from a little bit of a rainstorm that happened about an hour ago. There goes that woodland kingfisher again, just bathing. It's not trying to catch anything, it's just bathing right now. And we had about, I'd say about 30 millimeters of rain that fell in about an hour, which is very heavy rain. And it all fell in the catchment of Leopard Dam, and so it's just absolutely chock-a-block full. There goes that kingfisher again. Dived in the water to get rid of any dirt or mud or sand, dust. And now it can shake off that water, the excess, and then preen its feathers and give itself a good clean. It's probably going to dive in a couple more times or fly away. Classic. Amazing. I've never seen this much water on Pride Lands before. In fact, I think the Lowveld in general hasn't seen this much water in over 20 years. It's absolutely spectacular. It will obviously make things a bit tricky in terms of game drives, but it's wonderful for the animals. It means abundant grass, abundant vegetation, plenty of water late into the winter. It's going to really benefit them later on. While we think about which direction we can travel to get to Leopard Dam, we'll send you over to Tswalu and Deirdre.
So Mike's talking about a lot of water, and that water is coming. Myself and Morgan, we've been heading north as quickly as possible. That storm came in a lot faster than we expected. The wind is forecast for over 11 kilometers per hour, but you can just see the vegetation. It's actually died down a bit now, but it was coming in really strongly. And there's some kudu there. There is a gemsbok on the left, and there was also a wildebeest hiding on the right hand side. So we had 3 animals in one shot a while ago, and we might actually end up seeing some lightning in the background there, but you can just see the amount of rain on those mountains in the back there just coming down quite heavily. It is starting to drizzle on us, so we are heading for cover relatively soon. Hopefully the kudu managed to find some good cover. Lightning is always dangerous for animals out in these areas because they don't necessarily find sometimes the best places for shelter. Ooh, the drops are getting harder. They are coming. So Sarah's comment is that the kudus don't seem to be too fazed by the weather changing. No, not at this stage. Maybe they've decided that that's their spot, but they're... listen to that. That was a lightning bolt that hit literally just to the left of the frame. So not too far from us. We're going to send you across to Lauren while we head for cover.
Look what I have managed to find on the dam cam. Some vervet monkeys. And you can see there's a youngster. Look at that tiny little one. I can only imagine what kind of naughtiness these vervet monkeys are getting up to. And of course it's raining. So most likely they're seeking shade in this knobthorn here. Shelter from the rain. But it's not nighttime yet, so they're still very much awake, and they're probably still going to continue running up and down the tree, just trying to avoid getting wet. Now, vervet monkeys in general are old world monkeys. You get old world monkeys and you also get new world monkeys, and they're sort of broken down. When you refer to the old world monkeys, that's generally those monkeys that live naturally, I'm not talking about in captivity, in Africa and Asia, as opposed to the new world, which refers to those sort of primates or monkeys in the Americas. Now, the old world monkeys were also found historically in parts of Europe, but sadly no longer, so it's mostly Africa and Asia, and they all belong to one family, so they're all very closely related, and that family is related to the apes and humans. Now, when you refer to the New World monkeys, they're much more removed, so they're not so closely related to apes and humans, and they sort of comprise of 5 families, not just one big family, 5 different families. So the vervets, what we're looking at right now, they are Old World monkeys, and of course we're finding them right here, just outside Juma camp. They're eating, I think. I don't quite know what they're snacking on. But it's remarkable. We get our food delivered here every Wednesday, and they're here on time. Can you believe it? Lisa, they do blend in very well. Well, in summer they do. Not so much in winter, or at least a barren winter, but in summer they absolutely do. And they're so intelligent. They really know their way around our camp. That one's so young. That's a very young little vervet there. Oh, I think that might be Mom going to hold on to it. I think there's some grooming going on here. Rosalind, I think you're asking, can vervets bite? I'll just get Gwen to repeat that. Yes, of course they can bite. They have very, very sharp teeth, and they would bite humans if they felt threatened. And although they're nowhere near as big as the Chacma baboons we get here, we also have to be very, very careful that you don't corner a monkey or you don't scare a monkey, and it would bite if it felt threatened. But they're not going to attack you out of nowhere, and that's the sort of baseline for most organisms, even in the ocean. Even with sharks, even with any of those nasty titan triggerfish, they're not going to attack you unless they feel threatened, unless you've encroached in their space, or you're making... I'm just going to move the damn cam a little. Or your presence is making them feel like they can't... There's no escape route. Now, humans can do this unintentionally. We don't mean it. We maybe just approach a nest, or we swim too close to something that we don't know about, or we walk too close to something. But that's really when you'll find animals attacking when they feel threatened. So yes, the vervets can bite. I can imagine it's a very painful and nasty bite. Got very sharp teeth and sharp canines. But as long as you keep your distance, you should be absolutely fine, and you really shouldn't get bitten by the monkeys. But the problem, especially with the vervets, is that they do co-inhabit with humans. They do come to any area of human civilization. Okay, I think I'm going to keep myself entertained by watching these monkeys for a while, and we're going to send you guys across to Steve.
Hello, everybody. Well, we've returned to the open plains of quarantine where hopefully we won't experience any gremlins. We've now found a wonderful herd of impala that this morning lost one of their own. Not far from where we sit, the lions came onto quarantine. Quarantine, for those of you who don't know, is this really large open clearing, sort of just outside of our Djuma camp, where lots of our impalas and wildebeest like to hang out. Far less of wildebeest hang out here lately due to the Talamati pride. And a lion pride this morning, I think it was the Nkumas, I don't know. I didn't see them, we just had tracks. Came straight on here, killed an impala, I'm sure it was a female, and then went straight out again. That's why it could have been a different pride altogether. They have relaxed quite a lot since then. They're a bit jumpy this morning. No, Alison, the male impalas use their horns primarily for fighting with each other. They don't use them for any defense against predators. They might, from time to time, turn on a predator, a smaller predator, on its own. A jackal, for example, a male impala might do so, but he would never try and defend his ladies. They all just run. When there's predators, they scatter. And it's the fastest that survive. Oh, I said we've got a very little one in the road ahead of us here. Very late lamb. Sorry about that, everyone. It's lots of cuteness in the road. Look at that little one. Now, most of the impalas were due in November, which means this one's a little bit late. It's tiny. It's so small. Little lard lamaki, we call in South Africa, which means the late lamb. Lolly, they like these open areas for safety. They're all over the place, actually. Wherever there is an open clearing, you'll find impala. For the most part, they move between open clearings and thickets. They are what we call edge specialists, ecotone specialists. They like to go between the two different habitats. And when it's windy and rainy, they might come out here. And when it's dark, they'll come out to the open. And then in the daytime, they can go back into the thickets. So wherever there's a clearing, wherever there's a fire break, wherever there's been some openness made, you will find impala. I've never measured, Will, but they can jump about 12 meters at the full length. It's very, very far. They're very, very quick off the mark. Their backsides or their rump is higher than their front legs or their shoulders, so they've got enormous amounts of spring in their jump, so they can take off very, very quickly. And I reckon they can probably run at about, it's hard to say. I've never worked it out how fast they can run, but over a short distance, predators can catch them, lions and leopards, and they get up to the 90 kilometers an hour. So I think off the mark, a predator's got more
Sorry about those technical difficulties. I know that with all this wet weather, things are a bit tricky, but I managed to find that lioness again. As you see, she's taking a bit of a rest, regrouping herself after a tough afternoon of unsuccessful hunting so far. She's got a nice spot there though, nice and open. It's on some sand that's well drained because absolutely everywhere else is underwater right now. And she's just going to take a moment to rest before trying again. All the wildebeest and impalas and the zebra are all back on Impala Plains, and they're all basically standing exactly where she was when we started the show. They were right by those rocks where she was hiding. So it just goes to show that, you know, patience is really key. It might have worked out if she just stayed there, that they would have ambled over to her. But it could also be that they moved there because she's now here on the opposite side. But one thing is not in doubt, she is keen to catch something for dinner, so chances are she'll try again a little bit later. It's amazing how well she blends in to this sand. You know, from where she's sitting right now, she looks very pale. But if any animal's approaching her from the front or behind, her tawny coat is much darker, and it's actually almost exactly the same color as the sand. I've actually seen it before. Same situation, male lion though, sleeping, and a zebra basically almost stepped on the lion before it realized. And what was the funniest thing was that the lion didn't even realize the zebra was there. It was so fast asleep that it's only when the zebra freaked out and started running away that the lion jumped up and realized what was happening. Missed opportunity. Kaylee, lions can sleep for many hours of the day. In fact, they're well known to sleep for sometimes more than 18 to 20 hours of the day. You know, they have these short, intense moments of hunting like what we just saw, which uses a lot of energy. And so that was maybe 1 hour of effort, and now she'll go and sleep for at least a few hours, maybe just to recuperate from that and to make sure she's fully recovered. Remember, it's not like us. We can just drive to the shops to get some food. This lion needs to be on absolutely top form. Hi there. Yes, we're talking about you. She can obviously hear my voice, even with the water rushing behind her. She knows we're here. Even when they're asleep, these lions could hear things coming. I mean, especially her being a single lioness, she has to be alert all the time. So yes, so in order for her to be a successful hunter, she does need to sleep a lot in order to make sure she's fully rested when she tries again, because she'll really put as much effort as possible into every hunt. She's a very beautiful lioness, though, very pale. I wonder if that helps or hinders her. At this time of year, I'm sure it's a hindrance because everything is so bright and green. That very pale coat maybe stands out just a little bit. Perhaps she's got a bit of those Ingala white lion genes in her. See her ears just perking left and right every now and again, just picking up on little sounds around her. See? Cute. She is absolutely gorgeous, really showing off how sleek and slender she is. But look at those muscles. Now that she lies there, you can see nice smooth muscles on her flanks, on her shoulders and neck. Extremely powerful cat. Now you can see what I was talking about, that color on her back. Justin, I also hope that. I really hope that she does join up with some of those young males that we see moving through here, or even maybe lets the bigger, stronger males, those dark-maned boys that we saw recently, allows them to mate with her and forms her own little pride. She does need the support of the males in the area. She needs to mate with them so that they don't kill any of the offspring she has, and they'll tolerate her more once she's allowed them to mate. It's probably going to be quite stressful for her, though, because she's by herself. She's got no support of a pride with her, so those males could, you know, injure her in the excitement of the new female. So she does need to be quite wary, and that's probably why she hasn't approached the males yet. Also not super sure exactly how old this lion is, because no one knows exactly what her origins are. We think she must be somewhere just a bit younger than 3 years old, but we're not 100% sure. What I am sure about is that there are an incredible amount of biting insects. I think all this rain and humidity has just caused an absolute explosion of insect life, and these little flies, which is probably what bothers this lioness, probably what causes her ears to twitch all the time, because they're certainly attacking me. But I'm sure she's survived this long. I'm sure she's going to find a way to raise a pride and make some common ground with those males in the area and carve out a little niche for herself. I mean, maybe she'll even rejoin a larger pride once she feels comfortable enough. Well, while we see if she's going to make any decisions to get up and move, we'll send you over to Lauren with some vervet monkeys.
Now you can see this must be one of the more dominant males walking across the grass. Now the grass is relatively short here, but you can see when the vervet monkeys are actually walking through the very, very long grass, you can see them. They're very petite little monkeys, especially when you compare them to the Chacma baboons. Now the males are larger than the females, and they're very, very obvious. It'd be slightly worrying if you were not able to identify the males. Very, very obvious. And when you sort of pair a male and female next to one another, the males are substantially larger, and of course they've got that turquoise, brilliant blue scrotum, which makes them very, very obvious, and they can be very aggressive towards the females as well in terms of their behavior. They can be aggressive to everyone in the troop. Now it's dangerous for a vervet monkey to be on the ground. In grass, oh, there's another one. In grass this long, you never know what might be sneaking up on you. And the predators, from your leopards to your lions to your hyenas, absolutely would hunt. Oh, where did this one skip and jump off to? There's a butterfly there that I would love to be able to identify, but sadly I don't think we've got the visual capacity on the dam cam, but you can just see the butterfly fluttering beside that male. Totoya, I did just answer that question, but yes, your leopards and your lions and your hyenas will prey on the monkeys. Now, maybe a very, very small monkey that was alone, a bird of prey, absolutely, like your martial eagles, could swoop down and pick up a baby. But generally speaking, it's most likely your terrestrial mammals, your apex predators. Now it's getting a little bit close to the lodge now, so we're just going to avoid being too tightly zoomed in on the lodge here and see if I can find that other male with my new dam cam skills. Okay, now while I home in on my skills here, we're going to send you back across to the Bob, who's still with his impala.
You work that dam cam, Lauren. We're not far away. We actually thought about maybe coming there and filming the dam cam, filming the dam. Thought that would be quite a highlight for the afternoon. We did think about it. We were only joking. Don't think that would be a highlight. But our impalas are still around, and we spoke too soon. We obviously didn't realize that Eskom was going to play a part in the gremlins this afternoon. So that's why you lost us a moment before. A wonderful thing in South Africa these days called load shedding, where they just switch off power to huge areas, and it always seems to be a little bit random. So the rain that has stopped is moving again. Lana, interesting you say that. The impalas don't really come through camp unless wild dogs arrive. They might run through. But we find bushbuck. Bushbuck will often come into camp, as well as nyala. Both of them are very sort of camp orientated animals. Impala, though, not at all. They don't like being around us at all. They don't come near us. Whereas nyala and bushbuck both quite enjoy the habitat, which is camp, and they both quite enjoy coming in. And they get quite sort of habituated to the camps. I actually tracked 2 bushbuck into our camp this afternoon, 2 females, and they were sort of hanging around inside camp, not at all concerned with life. There goes the little baby. Sorry about the pole, everybody. We've got a roof on because of the rain. I'm going to find a plant for us in a moment that the impalas are eating. I'm not going to jump out just yet because they're all going to run away. But individual eating it. There's a plant called the large-leaf devil's thorn, which you find all over the place, which is very, very interesting. It's got quite a few human medicinal plant properties, but we know that animals will often use certain plants for their medicinal properties. And I'll break it down for you as we go, but it's a very interesting plant in that some animals will actually use it in something known as parturition, which is to help expel any placenta that might have been retained after childbirth. So animals will actually physically choose it, the large-leaf devil thorn. And the plant itself can actually be boiled down with some milk. Don't boil it too much. I was talking about the wild sesame the other day. Turns into a very nice yogurt, which is a very nice aphrodisiac. But then at the same time is also very useful in humans for lubricant during childbirth. It makes a very nice sort of mucilaginous sort of soapy feel, which is actually inserted into the female vagina during childbirth to help with, obviously, the whole process. And at the same time, animals know to eat it to assist with expelling anything that obviously might cause infection later on. Animals are very smart in that regard. I've spoken many times about even chickens. If you have a chicken, free-range chickens in your garden and you plant medicinal plants, they will physically self-medicate themselves when they're feeling a bit ill and poorly. So many of the animals out here, they know. Many of them probably just know it through instinct, but elephants are physically taught it by their mums. They're passed on the information about which plants provide which and which plants do what over the seasons, over the years to come. And that is what I try and do on Mondays. I try to pass on some information that's been gleaned and passed on by traditional healers. I just had a stink bug in my boot. That was not pleasant. Passed on by traditional healers and sangomas and the like in these areas. And much of it was never written down. Much of it is passed on by word of mouth from grandparents to grandchildren. And in recent years, they have been written down, many of these sort of treatments. But many are being forgotten. So I'm trying to bring much of that back. It'll be Monday on Monday, of course. It's Saturday today. Today is Cataday, a day we would like to find you some cats. Okay, so when you come back to us, I'll have found the plant that I wanted to show you, and maybe we can break it down a little bit more and show you exactly how it works.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off. Just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go.
This is a disaster in the making. This is the first leucistic zebra I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, here comes a lion. Run, little guy. Go on.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it?
Has it just pretended to be dead? That is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me. It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live on the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Look at that little zebra about to be born. There's the head. Oh, you clever mare. Well done.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
So the lioness has put her head up. She's looking around. One of the other game viewers has called in tracks of a leopard on top of the rain, which stopped falling maybe just over an hour ago, heading in this direction. So I wonder if she can hear something that we can't, that she's put her head up and she's looking in the direction that those leopard tracks were called in, not far from here, maybe a few hundred meters. Who knows what's going on? Looks like she's going to get up though. Maybe she's going to walk towards the clearing. Yep, that's exactly what... Never mind. She was just uncomfortable. Classic lion. Classic any predator, really. Korean, I believe not with a whole pride, but with feeding with a young male lion on a carcass once before when she was first found, when we first came to Pride Lands, and reports of her being with a pride of 6 lions, but unconfirmed. It was not corroborated by any of the guides, so I'm not really sure if she's ever associated with another pride since we've been watching this lioness. But she must have come from a pride, whether it was that pride she was associating with or another pride in the area. She does know the other lions. They're not unknown to her. She just chooses to stay separate for the time being. Because, I mean, if she is, as we think, somewhere around 3 years old, it means she's not yet ready to be sexually active. She's only going to be sexually active in about a year's time, and so she doesn't hold much interest to the males. So they might still chase her. Might still not be interested in another mouth to feed. I don't know how far ahead they plan in terms of her being a reproductive female. Oh. She didn't like that comment. I'm sure she's going to be just fine. It's beautiful and quiet now. There's really a lot of frogs calling. There's a squirrel that's just been constantly alarming as it watches this lioness sleep. Of course, we're also listening out for any alarm calls in the near distance because of those fresh leopard tracks coming this way. It has happened before that a leopard has wandered straight into the path of a sleeping lion because it just didn't know it was there. I mean, most animals' eyes are really adapted to seeing movement, and so if this lion remained very, very still and the wind was just right, that leopard would not smell it until it was right on top of it. Tobias, I agree. She has done. I mean, I don't think anyone who would have first seen this lioness on her own, how skinny she was and how skittish she was, would expect that she could survive a whole year on her own completely. Especially at 2 years old, that's basically the first time that she would have started actively hunting with the pride. So she would have learnt the skills to do it, but she would still need a bit more practice before she got them perfect. So I guess it was sort of forced upon her to fast forward her hunting practice and just get good, I suppose. And she did. I mean, we've never actually seen her bringing something down, but you don't survive a year without eating regularly. So she's got what it takes, but maybe she just eats smaller stuff. And I mean, there's times when we haven't seen her for a week or more at a time, so those when I'm assuming that she's pulled down something like a kudu or a wildebeest or an impala, and she's just dragged it into a thicket somewhere and started feeding on it by herself. And she will be like that. She will, if she catches something, I'm almost certain that she'll try and drag it to shelter where it will attract less vultures, which in turn will attract less hyenas. And only once it starts smelling will it start attracting those land predators. So she will have to adapt her hunting style. It will be a little bit different to what you'd see with a group of lions. Well, after this, I think what we'll do is we'll leave her here. It seems like she's interested to go back to Impala Plains. So I think what we'll do is explore around the area a little bit and then come back a little bit later. But in the meantime, Steve's got something interesting for you. Let's go and check it out.
Thanks, Mike. I hope you don't get flooded out that side. I heard you guys have all had lots of rain. Lots and lots of rain that side. And so, anyway, everybody, we've tracked down the impossible. Only joking. There are plenty of them around. The large leaf devil thorn. You can see the very large pink flower. And if you look closely at the flower, you can actually see there's almost a landing strip for beetles and the like. Insects that like pink would fly in for the UV signature to go high inside there to pollinate the flower. So flowers are quite specific for insects, and these individuals definitely for beetles, maybe for some types of butterfly, but a very abundant plant and regarded as an annual. And what we mean by the Koki Franklin shouting, what we mean by an annual is a plant that produces some leaf, or it comes from a seed. The seed then germinates into a plant, and then the plant grows quite quickly, and in the case of this one, it covers quite a bit of ground all around us over here. It is actually busy creeping along the ground and serving a very important pioneer sort of function in that it's covering the ground, it's providing shade, it's providing moisture. It's also edible. We spoke about animals eating it, but it has been known to cause intoxication in sheep. Obviously, those are livestock that are brought in, but many local animals will eat it. As I said, we saw the impala feeding on it, but the leaves themselves, although they are quite mucilaginous, are edible once cooked and pretty tasty. Just don't have too many. But they also make a very nice soap, and it's the one plant that everybody's always spoken about making a very nice soap. And you can see the beautiful flower, and there is the seed pod over there. Now, that's why it's called a devil thorn. Now, that seed pod sticks in the shoe, my shoe, it sticks in the hooves of animals, and this is very fresh. This is only from this season, and it will actually be transported around by being stuck in someone's foot, an animal's hoof or animal's foot, and then distributed somewhere away. And then next rainy season, this will have survived and dried out a lot and survived out in the open due to the fact that not everything can eat it. Some of them will be eaten, but as the next rains come, these will germinate and out will come an entire another plant. So it's a very, very, very good way of distribution. And the plant is sort of locked up in that seed until next season. But have a look at this wonderful flower inside. So the flower, I've picked this flower, everybody, because there's so many of them. But just bear in mind, don't always pick flowers, because you don't know how many there are around. I just want to break off a little piece of this petal here so I can point. Here are the male parts, the pollen, these dark ones. So when an insect comes in to feed on the female part, which is just there, okay, so he'll get pollen on himself there. He'll go deep inside to feed on the nectar down at the back, and it will touch pollen onto this, which is the female part, just over there, and then that causes fertilization, and the pollen will go inside, and then the base of the flower, this is where it all starts to take place. The seed will germinate, or will fertilize, and will become a seed once the pollen mixes with the ovary inside the female part, and all happens inside there, and as you can see here with our seed, and that is how it starts. So it's the same stalk attached, and everything will then fall off that's not needed, and even the flower itself will go back into the soil or be eaten. The leaves of the plant and the stems and everything else will go back into the soil, and these seeds themselves can be distributed who knows how far until an animal decides to unlock it from their foot. They stick in our shoes for days. If you don't pull them out, they stick into tires, they stick in zebras' hooves or wildebeest hooves. They get caught up in the mud as well, and they get distributed much further away from the parental plant. Then obviously it's better for the parent. So a wonderful, wonderful plant, very pretty, with the anthers and the stamen, the male and female plant. And you can see the UV signature. You can see how it's like a landing strip. It's telling something. Come on, land inside here. And then all the way to the back to get the nectar. Quite pretty. Quite pretty indeed. Jelly evil is such a bad word. Jelly says that the flower is so pretty and the seed is evil. I don't think the seed's evil. I think the seed's very clever. In fact, I'm going to show it to you how it sticks to my shoe. And then you'll see how I'm just going to put it on the floor. I'll stand. Oopsie, it's not sticking. It sticks to my other shoe. This one's not a very good one. Anyway, we failed in that test, but I've had them stick in my shoe regularly. And each one, see, there's plenty of them here. See how they... So this is providing enormous amount. You got that, Sebi? So this is creating an enormous amount of shade on the ground over here. Can you see that there's nothing there? There was nothing there before, and this is now moving over. Organic material will blow in here, seeds will blow in here, animals will come and feed here, defecate here. So it's a pioneer, very, very important pioneer function of covering the ground, protecting against baking sunshine. And then this dries up, the seeds get distributed. Look at that devil thorn. I think they're still quite fresh now. Maybe I should open one up and we can show you what it looks like inside. Very hard. Might have to use my knife. Okay, let's cut one open, shall we? Remember what Mike was saying the other day, be very careful when you cut things, everybody. Have a nice surface. Boys and girls, make sure you talk to your parents before using any sharp objects. And there inside, you can see the seeds. It's not quite developed yet, bearing in mind it's still a growing season. But that is a seed. That is a seed. There's not many of them. But this entire structure over here is designed to protect those seeds, because this will dry out and desiccate. You can see it's all very fleshy inside there. Very, very fleshy. And that'll keep the seeds protected for a period of time until it desiccates and dries out, gets distributed, and actually could wait a year or two before the rains come, before this actually turns back into a plant. But a very, very nice way of protecting yourself, because not many things can then eat those seeds because they're protected inside quite a hard sort of capsule. Right now, it's quite nice and soft in comparison to what it will be. It gets very, very tough later on. Still very juicy, but you can see where the name Devil Thorn comes from, can't you? Okay, well, we're going to get back in the car, see what else we can find you. In the meantime, Dan has stopped to show you a beautiful scene.
welcome back, everybody. Now, what we're looking at here is the northern tip of the Drakensberg mountain range, and it's the first time in the past few days that we've actually been able to see that far. It's been quite cloudy, and as you know, it's been lots of rain. But that specific spot that we're looking at is actually what we call Mariepskop. And for any of you birders out there, if you're interested in doing a really cool birding trip, up into the top of Mariepskop is fantastic. It's got an amazing forest biome, and right at the top, it's actually got a fynbos biome, which is quite unique. And it's one of the highest points around here in the Lowveld. And right at the top of that is actually our communications, like our signal aerial and the signal for this area. So when that dips, we can blame Mariepskop. But a beautiful scene, the northern tip of the Drakensberg. Some people don't know that it stretches quite this far north into South Africa. But as we zoom out, we are also here at a great big watering hole. And there's quite a lot of game that's actually around this watering hole. There were a few white-faced whistling ducks. They flew off as I started talking about Mariepskop, which is a bit unfortunate. But otherwise, we've still got a few animals that are around on the outside. And I mean, it's such a big watering hole. You could spend a long time with a pair of binoculars looking around. There's a whole herd of wildebeest. There's some impala on the far side. I don't know if you can see them in the far right of that picture there. I mean, it shows you just the size of this watering hole. I mean, the camera's zooming right in with the naked eye. It's even a bit tricky to see those impala. There's some water thickneys. I can't, they're over there, but I don't know if the camera, can you see them? That looks like it might be one of those whistling ducks. Let me just pick up my own pair of binoculars and have a look. It is indeed, and in front of that is a blacksmith lapwing. I can hear a few other white-faced whistling ducks calling around. Here it comes. Got a beautiful call. It's like high-pitched whistle. There it comes. It's going to fly right over us. Listen to it calling if you can hear it in the camera. There's actually a whole lot more, or not a whole lot, 3 more that are right above that one. I wonder if they're not all going to come down and land together. Very cool. Glad you could hear that. There's a few impalas. Let's see if those ducks don't come down and land and actually look like they're flying away. Unfortunately, I'm glad we got one look at them. And I'm surprised this hasn't filled up more, this watering hole. I mean, it dried up for the first time in about 25 years or so, not last year, but the year before. And it'll take a long time, even with such good rains, for this to fill right up. You can see the basin around this watering hole where it can get up to. The tree line is pretty much where this watering hole can get up to, and it's still got a long way till it fills up, but I think it's going to be another few years of good rains before it does eventually fill up completely. And yeah, I'm so very surprised there are no hippos in here either. And if you have a look at the top of that dead tree, it looks like a tawny eagle, and if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's also a second one, it looks like. And the nest as well, just to the top right of that nest is a tawny eagle, and then obviously at the top is another one. And that nest, that stick platform, is a red-billed buffalo weaver's nest. It always blows me away how they actually get built. I always wonder how the first stick gets placed into a dead tree like that and doesn't get blown away or just fall. It's quite an incredible engineering feat, in fact. And there'll be a whole lot of birds that build that stick platform. It's actually not a platform, it's rather a nest on the inside, and there'll be lots of birds that live in there. It's a great way to tell direction out here as well. That nest is kind of facing northwest. If you ever get disorientated, you can look up into a dead tree and find a red-billed buffalo weaver's nest and kind of work out the direction from there. And the reason for that is in the wintertime, particularly when the sun is going down and it's a bit cooler, that will catch the last warmth in the day. But I'm going to stick here for the next few minutes, see if anything else comes down. There's another watering hole not too far away, see if anything comes down there. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you somewhere else to some bigger elephants.
We do have some elephants. Very interestingly, these are the rock climbing elephants, subspecies of elephant only found here at Pride Lands. Rock climbing elephants use their rocky textured skin to camouflage perfectly amongst this vegetation. As you can see, there's a tiny little one just to the left of that, learning just how to act like a rock. And they find most of their nutrition amongst these basalt and dolerite ridges, which is mostly where they're found. That's why their distribution is very, very small, not found in many other places. Of course, I'm kidding. These are regular African elephants, Loxodonta africana. They're up on this rocky ridge, which is quite unusual, because there's plenty of green vegetation everywhere. I have no idea why they'd like to go all the way up there, but we had an experience not so long ago with the students where we waited on a rocky ridge like this, hoping to look down on some elephants. And those elephants actually trundled their way all the way to the top to feed on that vegetation that's not really touched by many of the other herbivores. So it's fantastic that they do that. And you can see that little tiny elephant in the middle there is the one we've been showing you over the last week or so. The tiny little baby that's freshly born, fresh out of the oven. I think that one is not much more than a week old. It's very difficult to see. It's a challenging view. And if that is the same baby, which I'm pretty much sure that it is, this means that this is the herd that also has Susan, the elephant. The naughty, Susan the naughty. She's actually mellowed out as she gets a bit older. I think because she's now been upgraded to auntie. So now she has a bit more responsibility. And you can see that's probably the mother over there. In fact, that might actually be Susan. It looks like it's tusk. Yeah, I think that is Susan. It looks like the tusks are very, very narrow and close together. No, I don't think it is actually. It looks like the tusks are a bit wider. But nonetheless, here's a larger elephant, and there are more just to the right as well. I've seen them moving, and there are a few more elephants on the right of us. Lisa, it happens all the time. I mean, in fact, I did not see these elephants when we first drove past here. Gert stopped me and said, "Did you see the elephants?" He said, "They look like rocks, but they're not rocks." And we said, "They look like rock fence." Rock fence. And they are very well camouflaged, especially with all this red earth from all the mud that they've been throwing on themselves. They look just like the rocks. Look at that little one there playing with its sibling. And that little one isn't really eating solid vegetation just yet. It's still just practicing, putting stuff in its mouth and feeling things, getting to know what they taste like, what's edible. Not the one with the little tiny tusks. That's the slightly older one that's probably just over 3 years old. I'm talking about the tiny little one whose back you can only just see on the left side there. Very tiny elephant. In fact, I can't even see it anymore. That's how small it is. It's engulfed by all this leaves and vegetation. Oh, this elephant's going to push down that whole tree. Oh, no. Just a piece of it. She was trying to reach up and got annoyed about something and tried to push the whole tree down. Now, that tree that it's feeding on is probably a velvet-leafed corkwood, which is not considered a very sought-after browse tree by many animals. But this elephant seems to be enjoying it. It's reaching up as high as it can. I know we can't really see clearly now because there's one dead branch right in the middle of the view. Katerina, that is probably not easy, to be honest. An elephant can control its trunk, but it has to learn. It takes a long time for it to figure that out because an elephant has over 50,000 individual muscles in its trunk. Now imagine trying to control 50,000 individual muscles. It's got circle muscles that go around and round, and it's got long muscles that go the whole length that allow it to really act like an accordion or a concertina. It can extend it, it can contract it, it can twist it, it can bend it. It can actually move in every single direction you can imagine. Now, the human body doesn't have anywhere near as many muscles as that. I'm not exactly sure how many exactly, but it's probably not more than a few hundred in a human body. And I mean, it takes us long enough to learn how to pick things up and, manipulate stuff as a child. Imagine what it must be like for an elephant. That's why sometimes you see in elephant babies, they just start going crazy, just spinning the trunk around and running back and forth and whipping it around, because it's just very exciting, isn't it? But once they do learn how to control it, it's literally the best multi-tool. Very peaceful at the moment. The wind has died down, the rains have all moved off, there's no thunder or lightning. It's just very calm in the bush. We're going to enjoy this moment just a little while longer.
If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at Beyond Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra. Because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on Wild Earth.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I said to you before, I was going to show you a little bit about that devil's thorn, the large leaf, and I threw most of the plant away, but I kept the leaves. And the only container I could find is one of our little cleaning equipment containers on the back. So here's the leaves, and I told you that they're quite mucilaginous. The mucilaginous is very slimy. Okay, so you're just going to take a little bit of water. Actually, I'm going to take some water from the road and save my drinking water. So much water around. Excuse me while I just dip. There we go. Some flood waters. And then you just dip the leaves in there. There's stories of, in the Anglo-Boer War, in the Second Anglo-Boer War, 1890 to 1904. Anglo-Boer War, the British put many of the Boer women in concentration camps and the children. And there's huge talk that the only kind of soap that those ladies actually had, because dysentery became a very, very, very big problem. The only soap they're actually able to use was this off of the land. So you'll see now that I've been mixing the leaves up. Very mucilaginous, like sunlight liquid. Look at that. You just, oh, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? So, as I said before, that's what mucilaginous is. It's very sort of mucusy, very mucusy. So you could probably add some really nice flavors to this. I reckon wild basil, maybe the ossamum, give it a nice sort of flavor to it, and maybe get some antibacterial leaves in here as well. So this could be used as a soap. It gets very, very sticky, as you can see. And I'm just going to throw that away now. I don't need it anymore. And so that was actually applied for lubrication as a very nice lubrication, good for your hands, for soap. Lubrication was also used in childbirth. So very, very useful plant. And as we saw, you didn't see it before, but we had the impalas actually physically eating it. But we've got a bit of a sort of one of those afternoons today. So we thought, why don't we just stop and do a couple of little plant segments for you. And here is a very pretty little plant over here. Let me just position the ear for you there nicely. This is the abutilon, also known as the elephant ear. KB, you want to know if it was difficult to wash off? Well, it can get a bit sticky, but if you've got water to wash it off, it just rinses off quite easily. It's not a big thing. So if you've ever played with sunlight liquid or dishwashing liquid, you get that sort of that feeling to it. It's nowhere near as sticky as that, but it's very close. If you just wash it with water, off it goes. Okay, so this is the elephant ear. You can see the beautiful big elephant ear leaf over here, also known as the butilon. A butilon, which is a very, very pretty plant that we find around here. And it's also very edible. The leaves actually can be eaten raw, and apparently they will help to cure hiccups. Last year, around this time, I did an entire morning segment where I just found plants from the vegetation out here that we found and cooked up and actually made food out of. But one thing I can tell you for sure is it's not like the food we get these days in the shop. Many of the foods that we have been commercially grown and have been sort of tamed in a way. Spinach, for example, you just have to steam spinach and it's lovely. You can eat spinach raw. It's very nice. But many of the flowers or plants you find out here actually require an enormous amount of cooking because they're very tough. They've got lots of defense and lots of medicine in them. So they're nowhere near as sort of juicy and pliable as the vegetation we normally find. But a beautiful flower, you could tell that would be beautifully pollinated by a bee or even a beetle. But with a plant like this, those very soft leaves are very, very soft. Very, very good rich man's toilet paper. Very soft. And ladies out there, if you want to take your makeup off in the evening, this is the most ideal to be using to wipe around the eyes. And last year I tried to make a little bit of rope out of the bark out of this, but it was very, very poor. Very poor. I didn't make a very good one. Bash, have a look at this. Bash says he's always seen them, but he's learned a lot today. Well, thanks, Bash. We try to educate. You can see that the shape is very heart-shaped, and we turn it over. The coloration is a lot lighter on the bottom than on the top. So elephant ear, this is one of a few species that do grow quite tall in certain places. I think this is the Butilon ungulatum. But as I said before, eating it, I ate them last year after cooking, and Louise and Lauren weren't very big fans. Seb, do you want to try some?
No, thank you.
Seb's not keen. It's not bad, but there definitely are better things out there to eat. I could survive off that. So a substitute for spinach, but cooking it a little bit harder than you would normally cook spinach. Because, spinach, we don't really want to overcook spinach. We just want to sort of blanch it. This guy, last year I blanched. Didn't work very well. We even put some nuts in there. Wasn't great. Okay, but a very pretty plant, a very useful plant. And as I said before, rich man's toilet paper. But you might need to find a few decent-sized leaves before you decide to wipe the nethers. But very importantly, this plant resembles as well the hibiscus, one of the flame hibiscuses we find out here. We should not confuse the two. This flower is definitely not a hibiscus flower, but the leaves of the hibiscus look quite similar to this, except all over the leaves and the stem are these tiny little thorns that will cause you to burn and to itch. So before you wipe the makeup off your face, or before you wipe anywhere else, maybe give it to your friend or boyfriend to try first before you do. And then you know it's safe. You're not going to hurt yourself. So another wonderful medicinal plant, and one also that is very edible. Mark, there are definitely lion's eyes. We saw some earlier, but we weren't in any signal at that time. I'll see if I can find you a lion's eye. Maybe we can even find you a lion. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Okay, let's carry on. It gets a bit taut in the throat. Katerina, I think a lot of animals have learned what to eat and what not to eat. They avoid certain things. Some animals actually eat poisonous plants. They're adapted to. Elephants learn, so their parents teach them what to eat, so they won't eat something they haven't been shown. It's the same as people, really, you try and teach someone to eat something if they have never been shown it before. There's always a bit of resistance. But animals know, and those that don't know, they die, and they don't pass on that inquisitive nature or inquisitive gene. For example, porcupines can eat quite poisonous plants. So can mole rats. Black rhino can feed on euphorbias. And they've just developed a certain immunity to it. You'll see a giraffe feeding on tambuti leaves certain times a year. It obviously does something for the stomach. We know that that's poisonous. That could kill us. But animals are wary to it, or are aware of what's going on. And they know what to eat and what not to eat. As I said earlier, they know how to self-medicate. So probably if they wanted to put themselves out of the misery, they'd probably know how to do so as well. But I don't think poisonous plants is the way to go when putting yourself out of your misery, because I don't think it's the nicest way to have your tummy turning inside out and other parts of you turning inside out. Dodo, we do. I haven't seen many. Sour plums. There should be 2 species of sour plum. When I worked up at Salati and other places in the Kruger and Simavati, we had plenty of sour plums. And I think I've only seen 1 here. I don't know why. They should be here. Zarminias. They're very, very tasty, very pretty, very beautiful, but they're actually quite nasty plants. Sour plums. They are parasites, in that they don't develop all of their own food for themselves. They actually tap into the roots of another plant, and they steal nutrients, and it's water. Isn't that cheeky? With a specialized root called a even though they do have green leaves, they don't access the nutrients from the soil themselves. They will access the nutrients from the other plants, and probably a lot of the plant metabolize well. Okay, well, it sounds like we're going to be sending you just up the road to Lauren and see what she's found on the dam cap.
Now, I've been trying to find these monkeys again for you, but sadly I think they have all disappeared. Of course, the closer it gets to sunset time, it's very rare you'll find the monkeys or the baboons. They're strictly diurnal, and they take to the safety of the trees as soon as it starts to get dark. It's not safe to be on the ground. And although we had a little chuckle earlier about telling the difference between males and females, what's actually really interesting is why the colour blue. Now, it's very obvious and it's rather entertaining, but why blue? And how on earth is that bright turquoise of the male genitalia that blue? It's not a natural colour. It's not often seen in mammals in the animal kingdom. And basically, the genitalia gets bluer with dominance. So it's directly linked to dominance of the monkey, but it's not caused by hormones. So it's not like a lion's mane where the mane will get darker with a rise in testosterone. It's not linked to hormones, and it's actually not completely understood in science. It's linked, oh, have we just got another live kill? My goodness, this is one hungry heron. I think it's the same grey heron from this morning. Well, it's in the same spot anyway. This must be the fish and chip shop of the bush. But just to finish what I was saying, it's not fully understood, but it's linked to sexual selection. Basically, the females are more attracted to the males that have bluer genitalia. So the brighter and sort of richer the colour, if you like, it means the male's higher in rank, which means he's more dominant, and therefore the females are more attracted to the males that have brighter, bluer genitalia. So that's what it means by sexual selection. It's completely not linked to hormones. And how do you get that blue colour? Why on earth does that turquoise colour appear? And basically it's through a mechanism called Tyndall scattering. Now, you've probably heard of this before, because Tyndall scattering, or the Tyndall effect, is also how the starlings and kingfishers and many birds with that bright blue colour also obtain that colour. Now, for starlings, they're actually black, but it's the arrangement of the keratin and the feathers that scatter light in sort of different wavelengths, and that's what brings about the blue. And it's exactly the same for the monkeys, but it's obviously not feathers. They're definitely not feathery down there, but of course it's skin. So the skin is organised, and at a molecular level, oh, another fish. I think that's a fish. Wow, this heron is on fire. But yes, at a molecular level, it's the skin itself and the scattering of light by the skin that brings out that bright blue hue. Now, they've also got... Oh my goodness, that cannot be another one. I wonder if it's insects and maybe not a fish. I can't see 100% clearly. But this heron is decimating the population. And the monkey actually has really specialized, unusually neat and extremely orderly collagen fibers. So it's the arrangement of collagen and skin that creates that blue. Isn't that incredible? It's not a natural color, really, in the animal kingdom. Wow, I love this bird. They have incredible techniques in the Maldives as well. I think I've mentioned this before. They actually target bait bills, and they wait until the bait ball has sort of gathered and they attack all the fish together. They do it coordinated as well. You'll see many different grey herons attacking the bait ball. Yes, Sir 50. I'm sure you mentioned this morning as well, but they're very elegant hunters. The slower you move, the better. The less the fish know you're coming, the better. And of course, the longer your neck, that means you can keep your body position completely still and just stretch out your neck and catch whatever is in the vicinity. You see how slowly Tim, the diet of a grey heron is semi-varied. You will always find them around water bodies. They are water birds at the end of the day. And depending on the season, really, will be sort of depending on what they eat. But generally speaking, it's mostly fish. It will be fish of different sizes, but it's mostly fish, and they do tend to swallow them whole, as you can see. And therefore, they've got quite a slim esophagus. They've not got the widest of necks. So the sort of fish that we are seeing it catch right now, I wish I knew. Just like that. I wish I knew the species. Sadly, I can't see. But that's probably the largest fish you will see a grey heron take down. Otherwise, it could end up choking. If the fish is too large, it will block the esophagus. And they really enjoy tilapia. They enjoy mullet. But they also will eat mollusks and worms and insects. Now, I did read that you can find grey herons eating extremely small rodents, believe it or not, but I've never seen that. They are mainly aquatic birds, but it's very, very possible. If they're really hungry, they may go for a really small rodent, small mammal. I've loved them ever since Maldives. They're very iconic in that country as well. Oh no, we've lost focus here. Come on, Lauren. You can be better than this. But yes, it's actually iconic over there because Maldives rely very heavily on fishing. And it's one of the biggest sort of income generators. It's one of the biggest contributors to their GDP after tourism. And they see the grey heron as the perfect fisherman. So they all respect and look up to the grey heron. In that country, they call it the Maakana, but it's a very respected bird. And it's exactly because what you said, Sir 50, they're such elegant hunters. They're so precise. They're so excellent at what they do that they're very respected in that country. You don't just find them in Africa. It's very well camouflaged here as well. If I just zoom out a little bit with my remarkable skills, you can see completely blends in here. Oh, no, Lauren, that's not what we want. My skills are obviously not as good as I thought they were, and I've completely lost focus of our grey heron here. I'm very impressed with all the zoomies, I must say. I'm going to give acknowledgement to you here and now. The work you do is incredible. This dam cam is a fantastic tool. We're so lucky to have it. It's actually not so easy to operate. I've hit the wrong button quite a few times, so zoomies, well done, all of you. Okay, I'm going to stay at the dam, not going anywhere, see what else I can find, but you guys are going to head to Deirdre with her wildebeest.
But this wildebeest has been doing some really strange things. He's found a nice red patch of soil, and he was upside down with 4 legs in the air, kicking up the sand and rubbing his face in the dirt. And he came out with red sand all over his face and his horns. Let's see if we can get... Oh, no, he's just doing... he's just doing... I'm going to try and turn around, but he's just doing... what wildebeest do, cavorting, so running around, looking like a crazy chap. They really do love it after the rains. You can still see some cloud on the horizon there in the east. Yeah, it pretty much went quite quickly. Heavy downpour, and then it was gone. So we are back out. Oh, here he comes. Across the road at speed. So he's just showing off his stuff. I don't see any ladies around, but maybe we can get him to do some more stuff in the road. Oh, we've got to stand down. Yeah, good afternoon to you too. He's just snorted at us. So, old one-horned wonder. You can see the nice red soil on the one horn that he does have. He's hoping to attract the ladies that way. So a nice adornment. He didn't get too much red on his face. That's all fallen off already. But we'll... Oh, no, don't... Okay, maybe he's going to run again. With the wind as well, sometimes their sense of smell is messed around. So hence the reason for his funny reaction earlier. I don't think he's going to pop out unless we go forward. Let's just go forward and see if we can get him. But then Morgan can show you some of the clouds to the west, and you can see where the storm actually went to. It's actually still raining in the west with some lightning as well still on that western side, but you just see the sheets and sheets and that wall of rain. But the wind did push it over the reserve pretty quickly. So that'll be raining out in the dunes area. Still pretty windy. So we're going to go around the mountain and try and stay out of the rain. Aim for blue sky. We're going to send you across to Lauren.
Luckily I'm inside, so I'm not getting rained on, but I'm also struggling to find animals around the dam cam. Not only is it so green, they're probably all hiding from the rain. We've been really struggling with weather here recently. The storm that we had, possibly, my goodness, almost a week ago now, has really affected a lot of our equipment and the mass, and that's why we're not quite traversing the areas that we used to. It will get fixed very soon, do not worry. But the weather has had a huge impact on lots of things out here. And it's been a while since we've seen any sort of predator on the dam cam as well. Sometimes you manage to get a glimpse of the leopards walking across this dam wall. Now this is just what we're looking at now. Behind the dam wall, you can see it just looks like a very thick area of trees. But actually, it's the start of the Mulwati. So once you sort of get in there behind the dam wall, which isn't easy, I must add, then you're into the Mulwati. And it's not possible to drive all the way through. There's quite a few blocks. There's one area with rocks. There's a few areas with fallen trees. But this Mulwati will take you all the way down to the southern boundary. But it's on the other side. Of course, on this side, we do have Gowrie Dam itself. I did not catch that name, but you're asking me what is my favorite bird. My goodness. Favorites are difficult to choose. I'm not sure I can actually answer that. I absolutely love the raptors. I think raptors in general are incredible. And the history of raptors, the diversity of raptors, how they survive, how they thrive. Very, very fond of them. You can actually classify vultures as raptors sometimes, depending on where you're reading. Vultures can be classified as raptors, but they do mostly eat carrion and they're quite closely related to storks. But I also love vultures. Not many people do, but I really do appreciate a vulture sighting. And the word raptor itself actually comes from Latin, and it's a verb. Hopefully I'm saying it right, but it's rapier, and it means to grab and to seize or to carry away, and it refers to the way that they hunt because they use their talons. And it's obviously entered the English language from Latin, and it's been used many, many times over. especially over a long period of time. And that gives us the words such as rapid and rapt, rapacious, rapture, even raven, actually. Raven is adapted from that, and it even gives us a word in the English language which is not so pleasant as in rape. Every word has a history, and it comes from rapier in Latin, and that's why we call them raptors. And it basically refers to mostly your eagles and your hawks or your kites, your falcons, even owls. And that's what gives the big three. So you don't only get the big five out here, you get the big three when it comes to birds. And that's the Verreaux's eagle, the Marshall eagle, and the African crowned eagle. And that is the big three when it comes to birding for raptors out here. So talking of birds, I believe Pridelands has one for you.
Look what we've got. We have got a dung beetle that is rolling the biggest dung ball I think I've ever seen a dung beetle rolling. It's very impressive, and you can see there's one holding onto the edge there. That is a female who wants to lay eggs on this, what's called a nuptial ball, and the male pushing it along, trying to find somewhere soft for it to bury this nuptial ball. Now, it might stop in a moment and actually climb on top there to do a bit of a 360-degree orientation. Dung beetles actually use the sun and the stars to find their position, to figure out exactly where they are. Oh, there's other interesting behavior happening. There seems like two Franklin. We'll get to them in a second. Two Franklin having a fight in the background. Well, this dung beetle is actually very confident of his direction. He doesn't need to check that. There he goes. There he goes. Watch this. Do a little 360-degree spin. Yeah. Okay. Very embarrassing. She's watching. Come on, stand up. Okay. Oh no, this one needs a little bit of choreographing. It's just such a very big dung ball. It's actually struggling to get its footing. There you go. It had to do a little second check there after falling over a number of times. So this dung beetle would belong to a group of dung beetles known as telecoprids. And they actually transport a dung ball like this away from the dung pile to bury it somewhere else. Very, very energetic. I mean, think of how much heavier that dung ball must be than the tiny dung beetle itself. In fact, there's a second dung beetle that's following them. This could get interesting. Just behind them is another dung beetle that is highly mobile, trying to catch up. Now, it's often that this one might belong to a group. Well, I think this one just wants to fight him for this one, but sometimes you get dung beetles called kleptocoprids, who are actually wanting to steal the dung balls of others. He's maybe just more interested in actually getting to this dung pile itself. As you can see, the dung beetles are now moving beyond where we can... Brittany, I agree. It looks like quite the... How can I say? It's almost like a roller coaster. It's just being spun round and round. Let me move the car back slightly to see if we can have another look without damaging this dung beetle. How are we looking? Are we good? Just move back slightly to give this dung beetle a bit of space and to see if we can film it a little bit more. Amazing how far this dung beetle might move in order to get to wherever it is it's trying to go. And it might have already found a specific patch of earth that it really wants to bury this dung ball in. It'll normally be somewhere close to vegetation, on the verge of a road where lots of moisture is always there, so it can be soft. And the female is just holding on, tucking its head under to try and make itself as aerodynamic as possible so it doesn't disrupt the male's rolling too much. Actually very impressive. And those small little things flying around there, those are little flies that are also interested in maybe feeding on some of the liquid that's highly nutritious and maybe even laying a few eggs of their own. It's a bit cheeky. You can see as it rolls, it's like a snowball, slowly gathering more and more of the granules. Oh, that other dung beetle did not want to get his own dung. He is following these other two. Absolutely ridiculous. Here he comes. Unreal. No, the female, the dung beetle, is not going to get hurt by this dung ball. It's got a very hard exoskeleton shell, so it won't get injured at all by this this dung ball. It won't be easy. It's once again getting a bit close to the car. I need to move the car out of the way so that we don't end up driving over it, but it seems to keep wanting to come this way. So no, they don't get hurt by the dung balls rolling. They've got a very hard exoskeleton, which is actually what defends them against other small predators like other insects. They can usually get away from it. Are we looking there yet? Are we? Oh, we've got space. We've got space. I just want to reverse again a little bit and let this dung beetle pass by. We're actually, at the moment, looking for a leopard whose tracks were seen coming into this area. So we can just move around this dung beetle without hurting it. And then drive with our wheels on either side of this pile of dung, because there might well be lots and lots of other insects living inside of that dung pile. But we're actually looking for a leopard at the moment. Its tracks were here on top of the rain, so I'm sure it's around here somewhere. It's very thick vegetation, lots of rocky areas. There's a bit of a dip to the left of us, and we've seen leopards here frequently. So it's the kind of place a leopard might hunt. And in fact, if it's the leopard we think it is, we saw some tracks earlier, it looked like there could be young leopards with it. So it might well be Pixie Pan female, and she might well have her cubs with her. And they were first seen for the very first time right ahead of us on this rocky outcrop, directly in front of us. So she might be very comfortable in this area, and especially with all the rain, it might be where she wants to spend the night, because amongst these rocks, they'll at least be drier and safer than down in a drainage line where there's water currently flowing. But so far, no luck. Just have to cross our fingers and hope that, to see tracks on this kind of gravelly terrain is almost impossible. So what I might do is just drive up ahead here and just stop again for a moment and just listen. Perhaps there was impalas earlier alarming. It's very quiet now at the moment. But from here we have a nice view down into the area of Marula Lane, where we had some tracks. So we're almost certain that this leopard is somewhere between where we are now and that lower area you can see ahead of us. I'm sure she's going to pop out at some point, and she's a very successful hunter, so maybe we'll find her with a carcass in a tree.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, this could become a reality. Timbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of Wild Earth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the Wild Earth Camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of February 2021, and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
Oh, my dear, I do find you most attractive when you're covered in bird lice. Oh, Charles, I love it when you peck at my head and clean the bird lice off me. Let me say hello to Barry here. Hello, Barry. I'm just going to examine you for some bird lice. Charles, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, all right. I shall look for bird lice on myself then.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephants, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. Absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, the gremlins are creeping in, and we're not able to provide you with much away from this area, so we're going to just sit here for now and provide you with a decent enough view with the overcast afternoon. There's no sun to be seen setting, but somewhere in the west the sun is setting, so we're just going to hold off speaking for a few moments and allow you to just soak in a nice, wonderful afternoon.
two elephant bulls here making a bit of a roadblock, and they were having a bit of a fight. It seems like a winner has been announced, and he carries with him his victory bouquet as he chases off his rival. They were having a bit of a fight. It wasn't a major one, though. I think it was just a little bit of a friendly sort of contest. But they are part of that same group. We're on the other side of that rocky hill to where we were before. So they're part of that same group with that very tiny little calf. So I think they're heading back over to be with those other elephants. What we'll do is we'll keep moving down this road. What we want to do is actually go and have a look at HQ Pan, which we think is filling up with water. We haven't seen it since all this water's been flowing. Since the elephants are gone, we might as well leave ourselves. Since they were so gracious to give us the space to move past them. It's getting a bit darker now as well, so we're also in the direction of the area that leopard could have walked to. I think we're a bit far now. If she is anywhere, she'll be along this rocky outcrop just to the left of us. Same one that those elephants were feeding on. Let's hope she pops out somewhere. I'll stop here. I see a nest up in the tree. In the meantime, whilst we figure out what is our next plan, we'll send you back over to Lauren with a hippo.
Just been sitting watching one of the adult hippos, I'm not sure if it's a male or female, out the water. But of course, he or she has disappeared. There's nothing quite like seeing a hippo out, here we go, out of the water. We're so used to seeing them in the water, we're so used to only partially seeing them. It's foraging. They are incredibly ginormous. They're very, very large animals, and of course this makes them, well, slightly inelegant, shall we say. They're the only ungulate that's truly amphibious. They require the water. They've got a two-part life cycle, water and land. They can't survive without the water, but they also require the land. And normally, a little bit later than this actually, it's only 25 to 7 here in Djuma Private Game Reserve, and once that sun starts to go down, the hippos will come out, they'll start to forage. They are primarily nocturnal. And that's what a lot of people don't realise. Although they are awake during the day, this is their resting period. This is their period of inactivity. This is when they're using the water to stay buoyed up and not spend any of their energy budget. That's when they'll mostly do all their defecation as well. And that's why we sometimes have problems with hippos and water bodies. Excess nutrients that enter into the water body from the hippos. Oh, look at that nasty wound on its right side. I think it's a wound. And it's just using that enormous muzzle to just forage on all the grasses. Now, the word amphibious is normally what we use to refer to frogs and, well, amphibians. But you can also say this about hippo. David, not necessarily. A lot of the hippos will leave the water together, and they do forage alone though, so they can sort of emerge from the water body together as a unit, but then they'll go on their own to forage. They're not competing with one another. There's vegetation everywhere, and they generally do tend to leave the water body at the same time. But then they'll just go on their own little journey to forage, and depending on the season, they will go up to about 15 k's away from water, because water is everywhere right now. They don't have to go back to the same water body every single night, but of course most of them do. But in winter it's a different story. Things become tough. Things become stressful. Water is no longer plentiful. Competition. They all face competition. The vegetation's not as lush. Possibly the grass that they enjoy the most, or the most nutritious grasses, are dead. And that's when things become very, very difficult for hippos. They can risk dehydration, and they can risk their entire skin drying out. They're very, very sensitive to the sun. But in summer, water's plentiful. So they can walk further and further away from the water body without being strictly tied to come back to the same one if they don't wish to. Greg, I've never heard a hippo vocalise out of water. Water is a comfort zone. Water is where they're very territorial. That's where they sort of have the most power, if you like. I've never heard it. They, of course, make that very interesting hippo honking sound while they're in the water, and that's normally during the day. I've never heard it out of water, but they possibly do. I'm not sure. It's like a lawnmower. You can see he's just mowing down the grass as he moves. I'm going to follow this hippo as long as I can. This is fascinating. And for now, we're going to send you across to Tswalu.
Welcome to a northern black korhaan at Tswalu. He is got lots to say this afternoon. He's just done a flyby around the vehicle. So they demarcate their territory by flying straight up, around in a little short circle, and then sort of floating back down to the ground. So we actually hope he'll do it again, maybe now after he's finished his shouting. Oh, yeah. I don't know if he's actually seen a female in the area, which is possible because he wants to show off. So beautiful, nice little white ear covered, red beak. And when he's not busy shouting or displaying, he'll be looking for insects, grass seeds. He does like to also choose a very prominent, either a little termite mound or a raised area. He might go up. He changed his body posture there, so we're hoping that he might decide to do his display. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. That will be really, really nice, but... Tyler is asking how rare is this bird in Tswalu? Not too rare. We do see them quite regularly, and probably more so in this time of the year when they're calling so loudly. They're actually a lot easier to spot when he makes that amount of noise. Oh, no. I don't know if that was an evasive maneuver for us, in that he decided to duck and move a short distance, and then maybe we don't see him anymore. But such beautiful coloration, and the detail in the feathers across the back area are really, really pretty. It's almost sort of brown and black spots. And the female completely different. So the female actually the same size as him, but completely sort of a mottled brown color. So no black, no white on the female at all. And that's how it's easy at this distance. And with that, the plumage, the coloration on the plumage, easy to tell the male from the female. I'm just going to go forward and then we'll see if he does go up. But while we go forward, I want Morgan to show you the mountains that we showed you earlier with all the rain. And now there's not much. I heard there's a question from Riley, if FC could repeat that. So Riley asked the question, are these birds migratory birds? No, they like to stay all year round in these areas. Generally, the drier areas of southern Africa is where you'll find this northern black korhaan. But yeah, from an hour ago to that mountain completely in sunshine, we do believe we're going to be in for a spectacular sunset. If I look out on the western horizon with the clouds, we're probably going to get some really, really beautiful colors a little bit later. Still a bit windy, but not too bad. Oh, no, he's ducked off and he's gone, he's disappeared. But the color... So Lily's asking the question, are they also known as suicide birds? Possibly not them so much as the red-crested korhaan. Let me just stop, it's probably easier without the... So the red-crested korhaan is generally the one that will fly up, sort of puff itself up and then tip back as if it's been shot and then tumble down to the ground, and then just before getting to the ground they open their wings. So more probably the red-crested korhaan, which we also get here. Very difficult to actually get that on live TV when they decide to do their display, but this northern black korhaan just generally tends to go straight up, do a circle, squawking, and then just sort of lightly float down to the ground with his wings out. So his is not as death-defying as the red-crested korhaan that literally just plummets to the ground and then opens his wings just before that. So we haven't seen them been doing it for a while now, so they've pretty much finished their breeding, the red-crested korhaan. But look at that light coming through, that nice, beautiful golden light. I mean, we've got, I think if we pan around Morgan to that side and just look at some of the cloud cover still there, and that beautiful light on that boskia. So in Afrikaans, they call that boskia witgat, which is like a white stem. And you can actually see how bright white the stems are on that shepherd's tree or boskia. But the sheer change in the clouds over the last 2-3 hours has been really, really amazing to see, and the colors are absolutely stunning. So we're going to carry on heading south along the mountain range now, and hopefully we'll see you for a spectacular sunset.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We stopped as the dusk was settling, and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth.
This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
We have a baby pangolin. A baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back once again to our herd of impala. We were trying to film until this elephant came along, got in the way. Only joking. Elephant is moving through the grasslands feeding. It's a small little breeding herd of elephants here. There's a big mama there and probably a few consecutive years of youngsters. She looks like she might be a little bit pregnant as well, judging by the roundness of the belly, the size of the youngster there, and the fact that the youngster is staying very close to her front leg, trying to access milk because she's probably expressing or nearly about to. It is the time of year when elephants will breed, and wouldn't it be wonderful if we got to see that? Out in an open area like this. Bubbles, well, elephants feed all day long and all night, so they find little gaps in between to have sleeps. What we found when we were doing the drone search and ID a few years ago is that a lot of them seemed to be sleeping between 3 and sort of 3:30ish, we'd find them sleeping. So you don't often find them though sleeping, like sometimes in the heat of the day you might find them stood underneath a tall shady tree, the youngsters on the ground. But it really depends on the conditions, on the temperature and on the behavior. They'll have at least 1 sleep a day, maybe 2, but they're constantly in search of food. Must be quite a process, constantly chewing all day. Can you imagine? The guy on the right looks like he might want to chase those impala, Seb. He looked like it a moment ago. He shook his head at them. Definitely a young boy. Yes, you chase those impala, young sir. You see, everything runs away from him. That's why. Oh. it becomes a game. And every bush becomes a punching bag. It's very interesting behavior to see. That's the kind of behavior you don't want to be seeing from a big female. Those are all the signs of annoyance, but you see his tail's gone back to flicking. The head raised, the tail raised, looking down the nose, swinging the head. If you ever encounter that in a big female, then you better be sure you're ready to drive away. Something's happened, something is not kosher with them. But you often find youngsters doing that behavior, and it's a great way to learn those sort of negative behaviors in elephant. It doesn't necessarily mean that we've done anything wrong, everybody. It's the impala running past and the elephant responding. And it's what a female would do if she felt threatened or her herd felt threatened. But she would just laugh at the youngsters when they behave like that. But the impala know better, they know, rather just move out of the way. Okay, well, we're going to move on from elephants and send you back over to Mike, and I think he's got a lion.
So Lagatha, the lioness, is still sitting in exactly the same spot she was, but she's up now. She's done her 3 yawns and she's gotten up and she's staring now towards Impala Plains. In fact, as we were approaching here, we found one single impala ram not so far from where she is in the drainage line. That would be a perfect opportunity for her. Now that she's taken an hour to rest, and she can get up and just get closer to an animal that doesn't know that she's there. Great, but before that, she's taken an opportunity to groom herself. Make herself nice and clean, with as little scent as possible. Good hygiene is important when your odor, the smell of your body, can set off the prey. It's very important to stay as clean as possible and as healthy as possible. See, she's very diligently cleaning her paws. I'm sure once she's finished the grooming session, she's probably going to get up and move towards the plains. It's very still at the moment. There's not much wind at all, so as long as she can be as quiet as possible, it's doubtful that the antelopes on the clearing right now will be able to smell her. It is getting dark, though. We're going to have to change to infrared very shortly. So if our picture does change to black and white, don't be alarmed. It's not your monitor. It helps give us a little bit more definition of what's actually happening there. And if she comes out into the open more or a bit closer to us, we'll actually switch on the infrared light. We can actually illuminate her without her knowing that there's any sort of light source on her. Remember a few days ago we tried to film the lioness hunting around the plains, but she didn't arrive. We just had hyenas and the impalas. Maybe tonight will be our lucky night to see exactly what Lagatha does once night falls. Look at her ears. Her ears are focused back because she's got great eyesight. We were actually just saying now, taking a photo, the tiny little light on the camera, a small little light from the distance that we are is probably about 40 meters, was able to get a reflection from her eyes. The tapetum that we talked about yesterday, that reflective membrane is so sensitive that even at 40 meters, one tiny little LED light on a camera created a reflection. So right now, with my eyes as they are looking at this lioness, I can hardly see her. But with this infrared light and with her own eyes, she'll be able to see everything around her almost as clearly as if it was daytime. Goodness gracious, that's a good point. What does a lion smell like? How do I describe it? It smells like a lion. It's just this kind of very musky, especially if they're wet, it's very musky, heavy scent, but it's very difficult for me to describe. It also depends on what they've been doing recently. If they've been urinating or feeding on a carcass and they're covered in blood, they'll obviously smell like that carcass. But it's just this very musky, heavy scent. It's hard to describe unless you've smelled it yourself. Maybe one of the other guides will be able to describe it better to you. The scent of a lion. I'm not sure I can... Oh, she's calling. Listen to that. She's making these very low contact calls. I wonder who this lion is calling. I wonder if there's not other lions somewhere in the area that she's been hearing, and maybe she's trying to entice them to come over. Roop, it's quite possible. I mean, she was part of a pride that I think still operates in this area. I think it's got a number of females with youngsters. So maybe whilst those youngsters are very small, it would be difficult for her to rejoin the pride because the mothers would be very protective. But, I mean, certainly if she was submissive enough and approached the pride in the right way, especially if there's some related individuals or some lions that recognize her, there's a good possibility that she could be reintroduced to the pride. It does happen every now and again that lionesses get separated for long periods and manage to rejoin. It's not often happening, but it does happen sometimes. Just calling. Very soft little oomph calls, these classic lion contact calls. We did check carefully this lioness. It's definitely not one of the lactating females. I'm pretty certain it is Lagatha, though she doesn't have too many distinctive markings on her body. Just those 3 scars on the right shoulder and then on the inside of the back right leg. But definitely no swollen teats, no cubs that she could be calling to. It must be other adult lions. And there she's up. Where is she going to go? Is she going to head towards Impala Plains and try and hunt again? Or is she going to head to a different area? And I think this is all happening in complete darkness. This is what lions do once the night falls, when we can't see what's around us. And this is always happening around us. If you stay in any bush camp unfenced in a wilderness area like the Kruger National Park, These animals are all around us. We just can't see them. Sometimes we walk up and down. Just beyond the firelight, there could be a leopard moving past, a hyena, maybe even a lion. And I'm sure now that it's dark enough, she'll feel much more confident. If we could, we're not going to off-road because of how much rain has fallen, but if we could off-road, we could probably get very, very close to her. You see that we tried the infrared light there, her infrared spotlight, but unfortunately there's just too much vegetation between us and her. It doesn't illuminate her easily enough. There's a hyena calling from the plains right now. Very, very faint though. She does not like hyenas though. We've seen her trying to chase hyenas before. Miley, if a leopard happened to wander through here close to this lioness and did not see the lioness, she would try and kill it. The lioness would overpower that leopard. It's much more strong, but you know, there's plenty of trees here. I'm sure the leopard would be able to escape. I mean, they're very alert animals, so she's calling again. Very odd. Almost sounds like she wants to do a roar. She's just a bit too young though. But yes, if a leopard walked past here, she would try and kill the leopard. Not necessarily for the food, but just because it's a rival predator. It does happen occasionally. Every animal makes mistakes every now and again. A leopard could make a wrong step. Whilst we figure out how we can get a bit closer to this lioness and maybe get an infrared light to illuminate her, I'll send you over to Deirdre, who's got an ostrich.
So, welcome back to Tswalu. We've found it's a very long distance view of this ostrich lying down. So, yeah. That was a long distance spot of an oddly shaped neck in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's a male by how dark it looks, but it is in a shadow, but it's actually too far to even see at this stage. But often when we see ostriches lying down, we assume that there's a possibility that it could actually be sitting on a nest. With the weather that we've just had and the rainstorm, if ostriches get very, very wet, they get heavily saturated. Obviously, ostriches don't have to worry, they're definitely not flying. But other birds, if they get really, really wet, then they want to dry out before they start flying. It's not this ostrich's problem, but it may well be sitting on a nest. It's not really the season. So it is just interesting to see that this one's decided to take a little bit of a siesta, but it might have been as a result of the weather that went over. But they also, at the moment, there is so much food available. There's so many beetles and insects and green grass shoots for that ostrich to eat at this stage. And I don't see any others in the area. So they will, lying down like that, they are vulnerable to predators. Leopard, lion, as well as cheetah. I have seen them catch ostrich, especially even in the dark, because the ostrich doesn't necessarily have that eyesight for moving around at nighttime. It does make them vulnerable when they're lying down like that. And on incredibly hot days, I've only seen it a few times in some reserves when you're hitting temperatures sort of 40 degrees plus. I've actually seen ostriches go into the water and sit down in the water, saturate themselves, and they're generally just breathing, panting very heavily, just to cool down a little bit. He's looking around. He's just... they are really strange birds. So Elsie's asking the question, how do we tell the gender of an ostrich? And you look at the color of the feathers. So the males tend to be a little bit larger than females, but you have to see them relative to each other. But the males have the body feathers are black in color with sort of white wings, and then the females are almost like a gray brown coloration, and that's the main difference between them. With a male in breeding plumage, his beak turns like a bright red color, and then the shins also go bright red. So that's how you know a male ostrich is in the prime, in his sort of in a breeding status. We can, if we carry on down the road, stay with us, we might be able to get a slightly closer view where he is, but I'm hoping that we don't disturb him. Let's just go down the road a little bit and see. I say it's a him, but we can confirm when we get a little bit closer. We've still got a few more minutes before the sun goes down, so it is getting closer. I'll just try and go beyond that. Oh, no, yes, it's a male. And they're clearly showing you the black coloration on the feathers, and it does have rusty red tail feathers. No, come out, there we go. Rusty red, but then you can see the white feathers on the wings. So clocking speeds, I mean, that's not really a fast ostrich at this stage, but at top speeds, easily, I've had one running parallel to the vehicle, keeping up with me at over 70 kilometers per hour. So they can be pretty fast when they need to be. But sometimes they also get a little bit of a speed wobble and then struggle to maintain going straight, and they have to put their wings out as a little bit of a balance. So the fact that he ran off so quickly means he's not sitting on a nest. Later's asking, have I ever seen an ostrich fly? No, and thank goodness they probably don't. They do a very, very elaborate dance using their wings. But I'm going to show you. I've got a feather, and I'll show you why they can't fly. But I'm just going to try and get him up. I think he's coming out here somewhere, Morgan. Where'd he go? He was there. Maybe he's run away. But I've got a feather. I can show you the difference. Let me show you in my book. So here, let me get this one out. Bird is a Corey bustard. There is another species called royal bustard, which is the heaviest flying bird, but the Corey bustard, heaviest flying bird in southern Africa, and then the ostrich feather next to it. So this was those viewers that have been watching us for a while. We had an ostrich that got killed by a cheetah, and she graciously gave us one of her feathers, and so that was off a female ostrich. And then this is from a wing feather of a Corey bustard. But what I wanted to show you as to why they can't fly is look at how these feathers are all zipped together. And that actually gives you a solid surface that flying, if you were flying, you have some resistance, and that allows you for some lift, whereas the ostrich doesn't have any of those feathers zipped together. So they're pretty much never going to be able to take off and fly as a result. But you can actually even just see the feather shaft, the strength. So this one doesn't fly, and then look at the strength of this shaft. It's almost it is as thick as my finger, enabled to give that Corey bustard some lift. And then you can see here would sort of be the trailing edge of the wing. But if you sort of unzip it a little bit, then when they use their beak and they fetch oil from the preen gland, what they're doing with their feathers is they're taking that oil and then they're working the feathers, and just with their beak, they're pretty much just zipping them back together like that. So if I just do it, I mean, eventually the oils from my fingers will be very similar and just zip all those feathers back together. So that's why it's very important for birds to preen. I mean, a lot of birds are spending 10% to 20% of their day actually preening their feathers and cleaning their feathers, and that's because they have to maintain them in order to keep themselves warm and in order to be able to fly. So big, large birds like the Kori bustard and some raptors would only have a molt where they'd lose their feathers over a year or two. They don't lose their feathers all in one season and replace them. As they start getting older, one or two of those feathers will then fall out and go from that. With wing feathers, in particular, very often they'll lose the same one on either side, which then allows them balance in flying. You do sometimes see it in the eagles or the vultures, where they're missing the same feather on either side, and that's to help them maintain their balance while flying. But this is a very beautiful feather. Just trying to put. Sonia's comment is such a stunning feather, absolutely. And we're very grateful that both the Kori bustard and the ostrich decided to give up their feathers for us. I think I had it in the... Oh, no, I thought I had it in my box. Oh, yeah, there we go. So you were asking about the colour of the female. So we saw that was the male there with the black feathers. You can see here, it's like a dusty grey brown. This is the feather, also another one of the body feathers of a female ostrich. This would be around sort of the main body area. This is definitely not one of the feathers in the wing, whereas that white one is one of the feathers from the wing. So you can also see there, quite pretty. Put that one, put it in my box of tricks. And then we'll move on. Oh, wow. We're nearly at sunset. I don't know if we can go all that way around. Morgan will show you. We're nearly there. So some beautiful, beautiful colours. It's going to start going to yellow and pinks hopefully soon. So everything's calming down. The only birds I can hear at the moment are wattled starlings. They're making a lot of noise going back to and from all their nest sites. We'll go forward a bit. The ostrich crossed the road just in front, so maybe we can get another view of him and see if he is a breeding male with his pink shins and pink beak. And then we'll definitely show you that sunset. So don't forget to ask all your questions at Wild Earth, hashtag Wild Earth, and send at FC in the front of the question, and then you get to ask us on our live safari. No, this ostrich is not a cooperative ostrich at all. So Kylie is asking the question, does the sand affect the sunset colour? No, it's generally more the dust particles and that are in the air. If we've got a dust storm, then yes, it will definitely affect the colour of the sunset. Then it will turn it into a nice red colour. If we get that. I'm going to put that back there, Morgan, for you, because I think the ostrich does not want to be seen. He's decided to move off. So, yeah, if there's lots of dust in front, then we'll get a nice red coloration. But, yeah, because of the sand, I think we get some really, really spectacular colours. The golden hour at Tswalu tends to be the golden 2 hours, either in the morning or the late afternoon, because absolutely stunning. It's like a completely different scene from when we started the show to what it is now. And that's in 3 hours, how the weather has changed. there's the little robin somewhere here, close by, making a noise. Sometimes I've seen a mongoose or something, then he's making a cheep noise. So in one word, tell us what you think of that sunset in the comment section. Linda's one word is wow. Me, I'd say spectacular. And that's another day gone in the Kalahari. I really can't believe that Morgan and I got wet in between that. It's just the most bizarre thing. Oh, Ruth, that's a good one. Mesmerizing. I do like that. It's just this. You have the. It's just one stripe. It's like you have a look at the. There's just one stripe on the side there. It's just the highlight. So at least the forecast at this stage is no rain for tomorrow. So it'll definitely make tomorrow morning a beautiful day. The pink, I mean, the sun's gone, but the pink is starting to come onto some of the other clouds. We're going to send you across to Mike as we close down on some of those beautiful colours. He's got some impalas for you.
Sounds like it was a glorious sunset. No, our sunset happened a while ago. It's pitch dark now, and we've misplaced Lagatha. Put her down somewhere, and she moved off. I can't remember where we put it. She got up and she moved into the thickets, and we tried to reposition to get a better view, and then she was no longer where she was, so we couldn't find her again. So what we've done is we've come to Impala Plains, and we've come towards a herd of impala, because this is most likely what she's going to want to try and hunt this evening. And there's a zebra in the background there you can just see. So we're just going to sit here with them for a little while and see if they pick up any movement or sound of that lioness. That might give us a hint of where she is. I always find it amazing how all the animals in the low veld in the bush, everywhere in the world in fact, have a capacity to recover from being attacked. You know, they got chased by a lion earlier today, and yet now they're just going about their business as if it never happened. It's an incredible resilience that these animals have. I also wish it was possible for you all to see. Oh, we can see. Look, there's a firefly right there in the middle of the screen, right by these impalas just flying past. There are, in fact, hundreds of fireflies around us right now. It's quite beautiful. Sitting in the darkness, all these twinkling lights. Once again, another incredibly dark night with all the cloud cover. So these impalas will have to be very, very careful where they move tonight. Especially these little calves. See that one there is actually lying down to have a bit of a rest. We'll only really do this when they're in the open clearings like this, and especially surrounded by other impalas. As I mentioned before, they don't need a lot of sleep, not as much as we do, but they do need to sleep regularly, but to stay sharp.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees.
Oh, that's a dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well. Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam ops might disagree.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
So, just look at those spectacular cloud cover over the mountain there. That sort of pink and purple, just absolutely stunning with that nice red Kalahari sand leading towards them. That sociable weavers have decided to go to bed in that beautiful nest on the horizon that side. Makes a nice silhouette with those amazing clouds. Oh, the last few still coming in. I see the last few sociable weavers that obviously going to get the last few insects for the little chicks in the nest. They're starting to come in now. They'll start roosting. They do tend to chitter and make quite a bit of noise if you drive past them in the late evenings, and they're all huddled up there in their little warm, cozy straw nest. So what an eventful afternoon. Hopefully you'll all join us tomorrow morning at Central African time at 6 o'clock for our sunrise safari. And thank you from all the properties, Djuma, Pinda, Ngala, Tswalu and Pridelands for joining us this afternoon.